The Immortal Stranger. Starting as a traveling merchant, this video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 26 Taii 5 Element Fist and Provocation. In the morning, Zhao Chen got up early and wanted to pay his respects to his master Huang Xianjun after washing up. However, when he arrived at the main hall, he was told that the master had gone out with his senior brother Feng before dawn, so he had to return to his own courtyard. Next, while eating the breakfast bought by his servant Feng from outside, he recalled the memory of the original owner that he saw in his dream last night when he was a ghost. It was a memory of the original Zhao Chen's wonderful childhood life under the lap of his biological mother. Speaking of which, the original owner's biological mother's family actually came from Jiangnan. His grandfather was originally a local official, but because he was implicated in the party struggle in the court, he was convicted and exiled to Ganzhou. Ganzhou is located in the northwest of Daxia. It faces Jinsao Beating County across the desert to the north. Except for Dunhuang, which suddenly appeared in the past few hundred years, and several other scattered oases to the west, it is all endless deserts that will make you lose your way once you enter. It is one of the most common prefectures and counties chosen by the court to exile prisoners. Since the knowledge in this world is toxic, ordinary people can only read to the extent of literacy, poetry and historical stories. Those classics containing the wisdom of ancient philosophers can only be studied after entering the true key realm of the first realm of Tongsun. Otherwise it is easy to fall into a state of madness. Therefore, a teacher who is insightful about worldly affairs and can put truths into stories to inspire students to understand on their own is precious in the whole Daxia. Whether it is philosophy or science, it is the same, which shows how difficult it is to pass on. The grandfather of Zhao Chen, who was a local official, was a person with high knowledge and good at teaching truths, so after being exiled to Ganzhou, their family did not suffer too many difficulties. On the contrary, because of his ability, the head of a school in Zhanghai, the state capital, hired him as a teacher. The original owner's mother was a gentle, well-educated official lady. The reason why she married the original owner's father, Zhao Song, was because she was the daughter of a criminal. Due to changes in her family, she missed the age of marriage. After coming to the northwest, she was weak and sick due to acclimatization, which made it extremely difficult to marry. Zhao Song was almost her best choice. After all, Zhao Song was good looking and his family was rich. Although he was just a local tyrant, he was not an unlearned person, and he could have a certain common language with her. It's a pity that the beauty was short-lived. The original Zhao Chen's mother was already in poor health due to acclimatization, and she was injured when she gave birth to her second child, Zhao Chen. This was 8 years ago, when the original owner was 6 years old. Thinking of the beauty from the Jiangnan water town seen in the dream, Zhao Chen had to sigh at the good luck of his cheap father Zhao Song. Both of his wives were beauties, or beauties of two completely different styles. Unlike the current stepmother Li, who is smart and capable, the original owner's biological mother, although proficient in music, chess, calligraphy and painting, almost never cares about the family affairs. Most of the backyard affairs are handled by the concubine Mei who came with the dowry. It's no wonder that concubine Mei hates Li and the original owner so much. In addition to the instigation of the demon, the most important thing is that her power was deprived after the stepmother married in. In addition, the original owner has been learning calligraphy and painting from his mother since he was a child, and he is very talented. He has already surpassed his biological mother and is almost comparable to the master of calligraphy and painting I have seen in my previous life. The master praised the Dao controlling the flood copied by an ordinary person as having a hint of charm, which shows how high his level is. It seems that I still have to help the original owner to avenge him and try to take over his calligraphy and painting skills, otherwise it will be a pity. Although not many people know about the original owner's calligraphy and painting skills, his grandfather's family must be aware of it. If I show my skills when we meet in the future, I'm afraid I will be exposed immediately. I just don't know to what extent I have to avenge myself before you can give me the power. Do you want me to destroy the so-called Xinjiang Temple or Zhangxinghu? That's obviously impossible. Zhao Chen, who was thinking about something, finished his breakfast quickly. After digesting the food a little, he came alone to the courtyard, covered with white sand in front of the martial arts hall, ready to practice the bodybuilding exercise Tai 5 element fist in the secret records of Kigan and the 12 doors of the Golden Tower and Jade Chamber. After more than 2 days of fermentation, the news that Master Huang was about to leave the 2 towns and 1 village had spread thoroughly, so the number of disciples training in the martial arts hall at this time was becoming increasingly scarce. Except for Zhao Chen, there were only 5 or 6 people. Zhao Chen looked at them for a few times and found that among these people, only Brother Chen was tempering his body with the Tai 5 element fist training method taught by the master, and the others were just practicing fighting routines. Practicing martial arts without practicing skills will be a waste of time when you get old. Zhao Chen retracted his gaze, then took a stance, and without quieting, he practiced the Tai 5 element fist in his memory and carefully felt the changes in his body. After he finished his training, he rested for only half a minute before he started to move again. This time, he first entered the state of quietness, barely extended his spiritual perception, and achieved the effect of inner vision. Then, he used the Teichu Golden Jade Guidance method as a mental method, and used the Teichu state of mind to constantly adjust the movements of the Tai 5 element fist according to the changes in the body, so as to achieve the best bodybuilding effect. After all, everyone's body is actually different. Even if a bodybuilding boxing method is universal, the effect on everyone is different. Only by making it suitable for oneself can the highest efficiency be achieved. After this round of Tai 5 element fist was finished, Zhao Chen immediately found the difference. After comparing before and after, the bodybuilding effect under the condition of quiet visualization is more than 10 times that of the previous one. In addition, the so-called bodybuilding, or exercise, is essentially the feedback of the organs and muscles of the body to the movements I made, and the reason why they can know what movements I made is through nerve transmission. So, I only need to practice the Tai 5 element fist once a day in a state of tranquility and let the nerves remember the signal of each movement. I can then repeat this process continuously and trick my body into thinking that I'm exercising all the time, thus achieving the goal of sitting still but feeling better than exercising. And the method of making the nerves remember the signal and repeat it continuously is the core of the Teichu Golden Jade Guidance method. No wonder the master said that people who are born with strong souls and the talent of tranquility are the seeds of cultivation. This kind of non-stop exercise, without the accumulation of minor injuries due to the adjustment that suits the body, can be equivalent to 2 or 3 months for others, as long as the food energy can keep up. From this perspective, it is only natural that the disciples of the cultivation sects and cultivation families can build the foundation in 100 days and refine true ki when they are 13 or 14 years old and their bodies have just grown. After all, the master said that they either directly select those who are born with strong souls or strong bodies as disciples, or they provide their disciples and clansmen with medicinal baths and spiritual grains from an early age to strengthen their souls, or they have treasures, or powerful cultivators who use their own magical powers to assist disciples in visualization. And those warriors who don't know how to practice at all, even if they have trained for more than 10 years, due to low efficiency and flawed techniques, coupled with accumulated injuries, it is probably difficult for them to perfect their bodies. No wonder they claim to be in the questioning the mysterious realm, because they don't know how to practice at all. Ordinary warriors can only strengthen their souls by strengthening their bodies. If they are taught truly effective techniques such as the Tai 5 element fist and train their bodies according to standard movements for more than 10 years, and finally reach the minimum standard required for entering tranquility, and reach the starting point of the disciples of the cultivation sects and families. This gap. I feel desperate just thinking about it. While Zhao Chen was punching and summarizing his feelings in his heart, 2 martial arts disciples who were pretending to practice in the yard were secretly looking at him. One of them was a bald, burly man in his 20s. While breaking his opponent's moves, he whispered to his opponent, "Hang Liu, are you sure Master Huang and senior brother Feng are not here?" The man named Hong Liu took the opponent's soft punch and returned a palm while nodding. I'm sure. But senior brother Sun, it's okay for us to join the Sand Snake gang. After all, many brothers have chosen this. But do we have to be so ruthless? We don't plan to deal with the master. We just find a reason to hurt this little junior brother Zhao. The gang leader promised a street of benefits. Aren't you tempted? Senior brother Sun, who had a bald head, showed greed in his eyes. Isn't it just to hurt the little junior brother, to make the Zhao family break with the master? How can this not be considered dealing with the master? Although thinking so in his heart, Hong Liu still lowered his voice and said, of course I'm tempted. But the Zhao family is not easy to mess with. What do you know? If there is a stepmother, there must be a stepfather. The mistress of the Zhao family probably wants this kid to be beaten to death. And the gang leader also promised to protect us. After senior brother Sun finished speaking, he asked viciously, just say whether you will do it or not. Yes. After thinking for a moment, Hong Liu gritted his teeth and agreed. After all, wealth and honor are sought in danger. Then I will go to provoke, and you come to stop the one who may meddle in other people's business. Senior brother Sun glanced at senior brother Chen, who was the only one besides Zhao Chen who was practicing the Tai 5 element boxing seriously, and said so. On the other side, Zhao Chen, who had just finished his training and stood up, found that a bold strong man approached him, and he shouted, Brother Zhao, what's the point of practicing boxing by yourself? Come, let me, your brother, teach you. As soon as he finished speaking, he punched him. Chapter 27. The scent of silk stockings produces a green mist. This punch was swift, fierce, and unexpected, and it went straight to the ribs. If it were an ordinary martial arts student, he would have no time to react, and would have broken bones, and lost his ability to move. But at this time, Zhao Chen was still in a state of tranquility. Under the reflection of his spiritual perception, he had already known the obvious malice of senior brother Sun. The cicadas feel the golden wind before it blows, and the birds fly when the moon shines on the branches. This is the perception power of tranquility. So, at the same time as senior brother Sun punched, Zhao Chen changed his training method to fighting method, stepped forward, and chose to face the opponent head on. He used one hand to accurately block the opponent's punching arm with clever strength, and with the other hand, he followed his body forward and hit the opponent's face with the back of his hand, using a move from Tai 5 element fist called Kinj explores the moon, and the waves are calm. Speaking of it, Tai 5 element fist is named fist, but it actually mainly refers to its training method, which is the so-called gong. Although there are 23 fighting methods, none of them uses fists. They are all based on grappling and throwing, showing the Taoist martial arts of governing people without hurting them. Faced with Zhao Chen's counterattack, senior brother Sun, who has practiced martial arts for many years, also felt it was difficult, because the opponent chose the moment when his strength was exhausted, and he could not respond in time. It was too late to change or withdraw his moves. The current situation is like hitting the back of the opponent's hand with his face with all his strength. Is this young master of the Zhao family really just a rookie who has only practiced martial arts for a few days? Why do I feel that except for the slightly insufficient strength, his eyesight and judgment are better than senior brother Feng? No, it should be just a coincidence. Fortunately, he didn't use much force on his palm, probably thinking that I would admit defeat if I stopped at a certain point. If it was just a normal exchange, then I should admit defeat, but this involves the interests of a whole street. With this thought, senior brother Sun's face turned ferocious, ready to rely on shamelessness to take Zhao Chen's palm and then use his legs to attack his lower abdomen. But because his right arm was being held up by Zhao Chen with one hand, the latter easily sensed his intention under the reflection of his spiritual sense. Zhao Chen could not help but frown. He asked himself that he had never offended this senior brother, but the other party wanted to be cruel to him, which inevitably made him angry. So he hooked his leg with his leg before the other party kicked out, and at the same time, the back of his hand that was hitting his face changed from palm to claw, moved down to lock his neck, and then pushed and tripped, and threw senior brother Sun to the white sand. This is not a move from the Tai 5 element boxing, but a military boxing that Zhao Chen learned in his previous life. He often traveled and explored, so he naturally had to learn a few fighting skills for self-defense. It's just that he used to be only skilled in boxing and kicking, and he was not panicked when encountering an enemy, but now every move is as natural as it is, just right. This is the benefit brought by the spiritual sense generated after entering tranquility. It took only 3 or 4 seconds from the time when senior brother Sun suddenly provoked Zhao Chen to knock him to the ground. Some of the other 3 martial arts disciples around him had not yet reacted, while others were still waiting to see the fun. Senior brother Chen, who saw something wrong and wanted to stop him, had just taken a step forward, and Hang Liu, who was ready to stop him, had not even had time to act before the competition was over. The one who wanted to see the fun and Hang Liu opened their mouths wide, and they couldn't believe that senior brother Sun, who was ranked 5th among the martial arts disciples, would be subdued so easily. You have to know that senior brother Sun has been practicing martial arts since he was 10 years old, and it has been 15 years since then. His muscles are bulging high, and he looks very powerful. He likes to fight on weekdays, and he definitely has a lot of practical experience. In addition, he is tall and mighty, and has always been a nightmare opponent for martial arts disciples in the past. But such a bold and strong man like an Iron Tower was defeated by junior brother Zhao, who was quite thin in comparison, with one move, which inevitably made them feel a little unreal. Senior brother Chen, who was about to step forward to stop him, also stopped and looked at Zhao Chen in surprise, with a puzzled expression on his face. But soon, he seemed to have thought of something, and his eyes were full of envy and yearning when he looked at Zhao Chen again. As the focus, Zhao Chen finally had a relatively accurate assessment of his current actual combat power. After knocking down senior brother Sun, this senior brother Sun's punching power is not inferior to some heavyweight professional boxers in his previous life, but now he can't even take a single move from me. If I had just used a ruthless hand, he would probably have died on the spot. Even in terms of strength, I'm far inferior to him now. In other words, after mastering the state of entering tranquility, and with spiritual perception reflecting the whole body, 3 or 5 skilled boxers are no longer my opponents. Of course, without weapons. As time goes by, the progress of bodybuilding catches up, and my shortcomings in strength are made up. Maybe I can beat 10 people or even 100 people. That's right. I just came here and encountered all kinds of monsters and masters of magic power and divine power. I thought the world was full of masters, and I was just a weakling. Now it seems that, although I'm a weakling, I'm also considered a weakling. Forget it, there is no point in comparing. While Zhao Chen was thinking, brother Sun, who was thrown to the ground and had a mouthful of sand, showed extreme malice and jealousy on his face. He was jealous of Zhao Chen's background and thought that the other party was favored by Master Huang and taught him advanced martial arts, so he was easily defeated. He was angry that Zhao Chen made him lose face and could not get the benefits promised by the person behind him. So he became more and more evil, grabbed a handful of white sand behind his back with his left hand and threw it into Zhao Chen's eyes. Has the routine of the Lime Martial Saint been transmitted to the other world? Seeing this scene, Zhao Chen, who had been thinking all the time, but always paying attention to brother Sun, twitched his mouth, then moved his feet, tilted his head slightly, and under the reflection of his spiritual perception, he avoided all the sand that might dazzle his eyes. But at this moment, brother Sun flew up, with a dagger shining with cold light in his hand, and stabbed Zhao Chen's chest directly with the sand as a cover. Seeing this, Zhao Chen, who was already half a traveling merchant, had no fear in his heart, and was about to take away the opponent's weapon with the crane soaring in the Tai 5 element fist. However, before brother Sun approached Zhao Chen, a green cloud fell from the sky, not only dispersing the white sand in the sky, but also cutting off the palm holding the dagger at the root after the red glow flashed. There was no blood splashed on the surrounding sand, because the two cut surfaces of the broken palm were charred by the high temperature in an instant. It was not until the broken palm rolled several times on the sand with the dagger that senior brother Sun reacted. At the same time, the intense pain was transmitted to his brain, making him scream. The fragrance of silk socks condenses into green mist, and the golden hairpin turns into a sword and spits out red clouds. The person who came down from the sky to intervene in this competition was Yan Hongxia, the 7th ranked Taoist official demon subduing deputy envoy. She was no longer in the embarrassment she had when she escaped from Li Ziyaling's bedroom last night. Instead, she looked majestic and heroic in her Fido official uniform. With a wave of her hand, the dagger with a cold glow escaped from the control of the broken palm and flew to Yan Hongxia's eyes by itself under the support of a green cloud. After observing it carefully, she turned her head, her eyes like lightning, swept towards senior brother Sun, and asked in a cold voice, "A dagger contaminated with heart plague. This is not something you can get. Tell me, where did it come from?" There seemed to be some mysterious power in her voice, which instantly magnified the fear in senior brother Sun's heart, and even overwhelmed the pain. He answered subconsciously, "It was Captain Crossing gave it to me. He said that the value of this dagger is equivalent to the annual income of a street, and it is an advance payment to me. As long as I beat up junior brother Zhao, and then put the blame on the Sand Snake gang, then I can get the subsequent rewards. He told me not to be afraid of the Zhao family. Even if the constables in this town arrest me, he will release me privately." Hang Liu on the side was stunned. He didn't expect that there was such a complicated calculation behind this. Fortunately, the man surnamed Sun was defeated quickly, and he hadn't taken action yet, otherwise he would have been screwed by him. "Captain Crossing, is he from the Xingang temple?" Well, it makes sense that they have been hiding in the small mountain temple outside the town for many years with the help of the town's head constable. Yan Hongxia nodded slightly, then pointed at senior brother Sun who was holding the severed palm, and instructed the 3 martial arts disciples headed by senior brother Chen, "You keep an eye on him, and wait for me to come back." After speaking, she grabbed Zhao Chen's arm again and said lightly, "Come with me." As soon as the voice fell, green clouds rose from her feet, carrying the 2 of them into the air. The fragrance of silk socks produces condensed green mist, nothing more than this. Today there will be an additional update. The 3rd update will be in the early morning. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 28 In the Air. It was not until he was lifted into the air by the sign cloud that Zhao Chen seemed to have come back to his senses from the series of accidents that had just happened. He looked down curiously and found that the cloud was not flying very high, only about 100 meters at most. Because he had been swept up by the strong wind, transformed by Wang Daoyi before, he was quite used to this kind of flight that seemed to have no protection. After all, compared with the strong wind, the cloud was much slower, but it was also stable. "You are quite courageous. Many people will be very nervous when they look down from a high place for the first time and even have symptoms such as nausea and dizziness." Yan Hongxia turned her head to look at him and said with a smile, "Your attitude seems to be much better than the last time we met. In addition, you said so much in detail. Could it be that you are one of those many people?" After complaining in his heart, Zhao Chen stole a glance at the beautiful and graceful female Taoist official beside him. Seeing that her hand was still holding his arm, and she had no intention of letting go, he carefully organized his words, and said, Thank you, Sister Yan, for rescuing me. You're welcome. Since Mr. Huang is helping me out, I naturally have the obligation to take care of his apprentice's safety on his behalf, and even if I don't do anything, you may not be hurt." At this point, Yan Hongxia paused, then raised the corners of her mouth and joked, "In addition, you are quite sweet, but I'm a good friend of your mother. Isn't it inappropriate for you to call me sister?" Although she said so, the smile on her face was much more sincere than before. The mother she mentioned was naturally Zhao Chen's stepmother Li. "When I was a child, I also called my mother sister," Zhao Chen answered quite honestly. "This is a true story. At the end of the dream last night, it happened that the newly appointed garrison commander Li who brought his concubine Li Ziyang to visit the Zhao family. You are really good at talking. Then let's talk about our own things. You call me Sister Hongxia and I call you Zhao Chen. How about that?" Yan Hongxia said and laughed, and finally let go of the hand that had been holding Zhao Chen's arm. In fact, if other boys called her like this, she would be happy, but she would not be so friendly. But Zhao Chen is different. It's not because this boy is a stepson of her good friend, nor is it because he is so handsome, but because Yan Hongxia saw his performance of entering tranquility just now, and then took the opportunity to check his body, while holding his arm to confirm that there is no trace of corrosion and transformation by alien forces. Only then did she determine that Zhao Chen is a real cultivation seed. This means that in 2 or 3 months at the longest, and more than half a month at the shortest, the boy in front of him will be able to cultivate true Qi, and become a cultivator of the first realm of Tangsa and true Qi realm. As for future fellows, her attitude is naturally different. It has nothing to do with feelings, it is a kind of recognition of identity. I'm not actually very good at talking to girls. This should be due to the influence of the half-traveling merchant talisman, which allows me to subconsciously find the best words to communicate with people. Well, these words should not come out of thin air, but come from the teachings of Zhao Liu and other friends on how to deal with women. The talisman itself should have just awakened my related memories. As his thoughts turned, Zhao Chen smiled and accepted the title suggestion, then asked, "Sister Hongxia, where are we going?" "Of course, we are going to chase after Captain Crossing who gave the Xingguang Temple artifact to your senior brother. I have a spell with tracking capabilities, called breath-seeking technique, which can roughly determine the location of the owner of the breath, based on the residual breath. If he is still within 100 miles, he will never escape. And I was worried that leaving you in the martial arts hall would give the remaining Xingguang Temple remnants in the town an opportunity to take advantage, so I brought you here as well." Yan Hongxia explained briefly. Zhao Chen's heart moved, and he asked, "Sister Hongxia, why did the people from Xingguang Temple attack me?" "Maybe it was for revenge." Yan Hongxia thought for a while, and then continued, "Since this matter involves you, then you are indeed qualified to know. Well, to put it simply, the Aunt Mei in your family has been bewitched by members of the Xingguang Temple because she has been going to the small mountain temple occupied by members of the Xingguang Temple to burn incense for a long time, and then she has developed great hatred for your stepmother and you. And the predecessor of the monster you met yesterday was a Taoist demon named Fang Zuzi. He should have also cultivated to the realm of magic power, but perhaps he was seriously injured, or the taboos of the magic he practiced backfired, causing him to fall back to true energy, so he coveted the Taishang induction pill handed down from your family's ancestors. The Taishang induction pill is a very precious pill. Even if ordinary people take it, there is a 10% to 20% chance of achieving magic power. Fang Zuzi, who originally had magic power, will most likely recover after taking it. Well, the reason why he knew that your family had that pill was probably because your aunt leaked it to the Xingguang Temple. And Fang Zuzi is either a member of the Xingguang Temple himself, or he has a friendship with the people of the Xingguang Temple, so he got in touch with Aunt Mei. In short, Fang Zuzi and Aunt Mei should have made a deal, with the former cursing you to death, and then blaming your stepmother, while the latter helped the former steal the elixir. But Fang Zuzi himself has fallen back to the true Qi realm. Not only is the success rate of cursing you rashly not high, but it is also easy to suffer backlash again. So he asked Aunt Mei to use Feng Shui layout to continuously weaken your luck. They prepared for 2 or 3 months, and only officially started a few days ago. And your father and your stepmother saw the flaw during this period, so they secretly investigated the goals of the people behind the scenes, and wrote to me. As for the follow-up, I think you can guess roughly. Although it's not appropriate for me to say this, Zhao Chen, I still hope that you can understand your parents. After all, evil organizations like Xingguang Temple are very scary to ordinary people. If you can't figure out the other party's purpose, even if you stop Fang Zuzi's curse in time, you may not be able to avoid the subsequent means. Having said that, Yan Hongxia changed the subject and asked casually, "Zhao Chen, how did you feel when your portable magic weapon helped you block the curse?" If Zhao Chen was not a future comrade, her way of asking might not be so gentle. It was similar to what I guessed, except that I didn't know about the existence of the Taishangan Dan. In addition, I also learned that Fang Zuzi was not from the Xingguang Temple, but from the Zhangxinghu. While thinking this in his heart, Zhao Chen described the contents of the introduction of Jiddu Star Divine Law on the product list of Dairi Xingcha in a truncated manner. He intended to use this to provide Yan Hongxue with some clues so that she could find out the truth as soon as possible and avenge the original Zhao Chen. The original owner seemed to only look at the results and didn't mind who avenged it. From your description, it seems to be the characteristics of the Zhangxinghu spell. But the Zhangxinghu and the Xinjiang temple are mortal enemies. Yan Hongxue frowned tightly after hearing this. But she didn't care too much. After all, the members of these evil organizations are all crazy and extremists, and it is normal for her not to understand them. Seeing Yan Hongxue's beautiful eyebrows stretching, Zhao Chen was about to ask about some of the things he didn't quite understand in her words, but at this moment, the green cloud under their feet suddenly lowered its altitude and finally landed on the bank of a large river. The breath disappeared here. There is another chapter at night. Chapter 29, True Key and Refining Key. The breath disappeared. Zhao Chen looked at the long river flowing northward in front of him and searched for the mark of it from the original owner's memory. This river seems to be called Legan River by people. It is said that the ancestor of the Li family felt pity for the drought and lack of rain in Human County, and it was difficult for the people to drink water and irrigate. So he split the snow-capped mountains in the south with a sword and led countless streams from the mountains. Then he opened the river with another sword, allowing the streams to converge into the current Legan River, flowing to the big lake around Human County. Therefore, the main river channel of this river is not like the other rivers with twists and turns, but straight to the north, so it is also called Xianjian River. The grandfather of the original owner once wrote the couplet opening mountains and opening roads to inherit the saints, diverting the flow to cast the Jian River, praising the great achievements of the ancestors of the Li family. It can be said that there is a reason why the Zhangai Li family has been able to dominate Ganzhou for hundreds of years and is deeply respected by the people. After recalling the past experience of the original owner following his biological mother to paint by this river, Zhao Chen withdrew his thoughts, but found Yan Hongxue still standing by the river, frowning, as if thinking about something difficult. Sister Hongxue, what are you thinking about? Zhao Chen thought for a while, and took the initiative to ask. Seeking breath is my new life spell. So far, there are only 3 people who know it, including you. Yan Hongxue did not look down on Zhao Chen because of his young age, but asked back, do you understand what this means? Did the people of Xinjiang Temple know your tracking method from somewhere and use Xianjian River to cut off the breath? So you suspect that the other 2 people besides me may have leaked the secret? Zhao Chen immediately grasped the key point. He didn't care much about Yan Hongxue's loss of the target before. After all, the Hongxue sword was famous, and it was normal for the other party to know her method and target her. But now it seems that this is not the case. The other 2 people who know about it are me and my immediate superior, the highest official of the Dao Guanshu in Human County. I don't believe there will be any problem with him. Although the members of the Xinjiang Temple are indeed good at stealing secrets, I have only cultivated this magic for 5 days. They simply cannot make it in time, so I can't figure out what went wrong. Yan Hongxue seemed to be talking to Zhao Chen, but also seemed to be talking to herself. Hearing this, Zhao Chen also lowered his head and pondered for a while. Combining the many crime-solving TV dramas he had watched in his previous life, and the problem of the differences between the names of the skills mentioned by his master, he suddenly had some inspiration and asked again, Sister Hongxue, your seeking breath technique spell sounds completely different from the naming style of the Li family sword tactics. Where did it come from? Yan Hongxue was stunned at first, then turned her head and stared at Zhao Chen with burning eyes and said, I got it at an auction at a cultivator gathering. You mean, the person who sold this spell to me has a problem? It may not be the seller, but the person who knows that you bought this spell. While Zhao Chen was speaking, he also doubted Yan Hongxue's ability to handle cases. After all, even a half-baked person like him who had only watched detective TV dramas could think of something, but she, a professional Taoist official, couldn't notice it. Although Zhao Hongxue is indeed young and may not have enough experience, doesn't the Taoist official office provide internal training? Oh, by the way, Even if there is training, it is estimated that at most she will be given some cases to study on her own, and there should be no summary of rules or the like. After all, knowledge is toxic, and things involving rules, academics, and Tao, even a mana realm cultivator like Yan Hongxia may not be able to read too much. This world is really a pit. When Zhao Chen started to associate, Yan Hongxia had already listed several suspected targets in her mind. She decided to return to Human County City to investigate immediately after clearing out the remnants of the evil organization in Bingquan Town and uncover the tale of Xingguan Temple. Zhao Chen, you are really smart. Do you want me to recommend you to the Taoist office? I see that you use the Tai 5 element fist to strengthen your body, and I think you should be practicing the secret record of Qigong and the 12 doors of the Golden Tower and Jade Chamber. This technique is passed down by the Taoist Taichu. Although there is no good translation of its fundamental mental method, the quality of the true Qi cultivated based on it is quite good. Generally, 2 of the 12 meridians can be directly opened at the same time as the true Qi realm is achieved. With the true Qi of the 2 main meridians as a foundation, there is a chance to open the eye orifices first. Once the eye orifices are opened, they will have their own magical powers. No matter which school of gunfighting you are from, you can immediately achieve a small success. Combined with the silver moon your mother gave you, ordinary cultivators who have opened the 7 orifices can fight. In this way, at most 2 or 3 months later, I can recommend you as a evil slaying envoy of the 9th rank. This is a well-paid and relatively free position. Moreover, as an official, you will have fewer troubles in doing business. After solving her doubts, Yan Hongxia, who was in a better mood, liked her friend's stepson more and more, and felt that he should join the Taoist official office to show his talents. But no matter how much she talked, Zhao Chen, who didn't know much about Taoist officials, was not moved at all. However, he didn't refuse directly. He just said, think about it, and we'll talk about it after you achieve the true Qi realm. Then he turned to ask about the part of her words that puzzled him. Sister Hongxia, untrue Qi, and refining the orifices, the first 2 independent realms of Tongsun, and the secret records of Qigong and the 12 doors of the Golden Tower and Jade Chamber only records the methods of opening up the 12 main meridians and the 8 extraordinary meridians, as well as many small meridians, and there is no content about refining the orifices. Why does it sound like you can refine the orifices before the true Qi is perfected, sister? Upon hearing this, Yan Hongxia smiled and explained, the inner disciples of the upper sect and the core children of the aristocratic families do indeed practice true Qi to perfection first, connecting the 12 main meridians and the 8 extraordinary meridians, and then successively refine the 9 orifices, build the spiritual platform, build the bridge of heaven and earth, to guide the vital energy of heaven and earth into the body, and achieve magic power in one fell swoop. Practicing this way will get twice the result with half the effort. They often start building the foundation for 100 days at the age of 13 or 14. After condensing the true Qi, they will achieve magic power within 2 to 3 years. But that is the practice method of the upper sects and aristocratic families. They have abundant resources and can just focus on practice without considering other things. But it's different for ordinary practitioners like us. Oh, not to mention us, even in the Li family, only the direct descendants of the direct descendants can barely have this treatment. At this point, her face revealed some complicated emotions, and after pausing for a few seconds, she continued, in short, we need resources to fight for them and take risks, which naturally requires means of self-defense. And the pure true Qi realm is not much stronger than the bodybuilding realm, except that some moves are slightly more powerful, or the true Qi cultivated is of high quality and has its own magical powers. Sometimes it can't even beat a gifted bodybuilding warrior. So it is unlikely for ordinary practitioners like us to cultivate our true Qi to perfection step by step. Generally, after opening up 2 to 4 main meridians and having sufficient true Qi, we will give priority to refining the eye orifices and ear orifices. Haha, if it was a few hundred years ago, the order of refining the orifices would still need to be based on the skills learned, and we would choose to prioritize practicing the powerful moves inherited from our family. But in the past 100 years, with the rise of firearms, people in the martial arts world basically choose to first refine the eye orifices and ear orifices that can enhance the gunfighting technique. As I said before, once the eye orifice is opened, no matter which school of gunfighting technique you are from, you can achieve a small success. And once you successfully open the 4 orifices, that is, the eye orifices and ear orifices are opened, then the gunfighting technique will be instantly perfected, and the combat power will not be inferior to the masters who opened all 9 orifices more than 100 years ago. If you can tailor-make a linking magic gun, then even ordinary magic power realm can only avoid its edge. Have you heard of my uncle Desert Eagle Yan-san? Although he has only opened the 9 apertures, he has even killed the leader of the horse thieves at the level of mana, by using his divine eagle gun fighting technique and his exclusive flying eagle gun. Even I can only defeat him, after I have mastered the Red Emperor Yang Yuan sword key. Chapter 30 Calculation. So that's how it is. The cultivation of the key realm and the refining orifice realm can be cross-fertilized. No wonder Miss Key, who is about the same age as me, has already opened her eyes. I used to wonder why she progressed so quickly. Now I think that she also refined her orifices in advance in order to have more means of self-protection. While thinking, Zhao Chen asked again, Sister Xingcha, is there any hidden danger in the method of refining orifices before the key is perfected? Yan Xingcha seemed to have guessed that he would ask this. She smiled and shook her head and said, there are no hidden dangers. It's just that compared to the cultivators who practice step by step to the perfection of key, refining orifices in advance is much more difficult, and there is a certain probability of failure. This is not a big problem, because you can use external objects to assist in refining orifices. For example, when refining the eyes, you can use elixirs such as golden eye pills. At this point, she seemed to have thought of something, and warned with a serious look. However, this kind of auxiliary items must be purchased from the shops of the upper sects such as the Danding Xianzan or the regular channels of the court. Don't be greedy and buy elixirs of unknown origin. Although some elixirs can also help refine the orifices, the materials used are related to demons. Once such elixirs are used to break through, it is likely to bring about changes in the body and soul, and the fate will also be related to the corresponding demons. As she spoke, she reached into her bosom and took out a small box and opened it, revealing a small ball the size of a tennis ball, dark in color. Zhao Chen recognized it after a brief recollection. It was the eyeball left behind by the monster that Fang Zuzi and Aunt Mei had transformed into. Yan Xingcha took the eyeball in her hand and continued, this is a Yazizi Mew. You don't even need to make it into a pill. Swallowing it directly can help people open their eyes. It can also be used to curse others with the eyes. But those who use this thing to open their eyes will become more and more extreme in temper, easily angered and uncontrollable. The most important thing is that from then on, they will have a connection with the evil Yazi. If there is no corresponding means to restrain it, they may be swallowed by this evil in the future. Zhao Chen nodded, indicating that he knew, although he felt that his fate with the evil was probably difficult to break. Not to mention that he went to a strange place called Historical Mist for no reason. He witnessed the original bodies of several indescribable things before entering this world. Fortunately, I have a big heart. When Zhao Chen secretly laughed at himself, he was surprised to see Yan Xingcha handing him the box containing the Yazizi Mew. Just warned me about the danger of this thing, and then put it in my hand. What does this Xingcha sword want to do? What do you want me to do? Holding the exquisite little box that still has the other party's body temperature, Zhao Chen's mind turned quickly, but on the surface he asked confusedly, Sister Xingcha, what is this? Sister, I have something I want to ask you for help. Yan Xingcha looked at Zhao Chen with a smile and said please, but her tone did not allow rejection. Sure enough, this woman seems easygoing and easy to talk to, but in fact she is very domineering. Yes, as a Daoguan, a person in the public office, it is normal to be domineering. After complaining a few words in his heart, Zhao Chen said with a sincere face, Sister Xingcha, please give me your orders, and I will do my best to do what I can. It's just trying my best, not affirmation. Although Yan Xingcha is not old, she has been walking in the martial arts world for several years. Naturally, she can hear this kind of slippery answer, but she doesn't care. She just smiled and said, it's actually very simple. Aren't you going to Human County City with your master in a few days? When you arrive, I will have someone tell you about several gathering places of monks near the county town. I only ask you to join them and become a spy. The guy who is most likely to sell my information will probably avoid me for some time and will be difficult to catch, but he should not avoid you, a new face. Once you meet him, report to me immediately. Well, it was you who pointed out the problem to me, your sister, so you must be responsible to the end. And this Yazizimu is not only a stepping stone for you to join some gatherings, but also a reward for you. It sounds good, but I don't believe that the Taoist office has no other spies in the gathering. Why must I go? Isn't it because, since the Xingcha temple used senior brother Sun to retaliate against me this time, it is possible that it will happen again. You want to use me as bait to lure them out? But how can you be sure that you will be able to arrive in time when someone attacks me? You can't follow me every day. Thinking of this, Zhao Chen asked calmly, Sister Xingcha, if I meet the person you are looking for, how should I inform you? That person is very dangerous. Once you meet him, don't be stingy with the Xingcha bullet your stepmother gave you. My magic is sealed in it. After it is activated, I can sense it within the county city, and with the help of the Wu Yun Shandun spell, it can be reached in an instant. Yan Xingcha solemnly warned. It turned out that it relied on that magic bullet. Unfortunately, it has been used up by Miss Key. Well, I believe that you can sense your own magic aura within the county city, but instantly. With your current speed of only 120 kilometers, Bawu, you dare to say so? Don't say that the Great Xia Court has a speed limit on flying magic. Although this woman values me a little, because I'm a cultivation seed, it is also extremely limited. After all, a seed is only a seed before it sprouts and grows and becomes a big tree. Furthermore, she just tried to persuade me to join the Taoist office and said that she was thinking about my future. It is not ruled out that she did, but she just wanted to order me to do things legitimately, right? If I had agreed to join the Taoist office just now, I'm afraid that I would not even be paid now. What kind of reward does the boss want for his subordinates to do things? Exclamation mark. TSK, but she saved me today, answered many of my questions on the way, and forced me to use the which can be said to have both won favors and given me benefits. I want to refuse now, but I'm afraid that it is not reasonable. This woman's ability to handle cases is a bit poor, but she is very good at playing these twists and turns, worthy of being a mixed official. Forget it. After arriving in the county city, I really need to join the monks gathering, and doing this does not conflict with my goal. As for the possible attack on the Xingcha temple, although I always feel that there is something else hidden in it, if they really dare to come, they can forget about going back. Zhao Chen, who has the magical monk Wang Dao's he as his trump card, thought confidently. But Yan Xingcha is plotting against me. Sooner or later she will be in trouble. Although Zhao Chen seemed careless and Buddhist when dealing with a murderer who murdered the original owner and a father and stepmother who used the original owner as bait, it was because he was not the original owner and could naturally look at the problem with tolerance from a third party's perspective. But Yan Hongxia's calculation this time was aimed at himself, so the nature was different. When facing the scene, she must have let her experience the feeling of making choices against her will. Zhao Chen was clear about gratitude and resentment, and Yan Hongxia's approach also had a bottom line, so he just wanted to teach her a lesson in the future, so that she could understand the truth of do not do to others what you do not want others to do to you. As for whether it can be done, that is a matter for the future. After Zhao Chen, who had a spiritual victory, put the box away, he seemed to remember something and asked carefully, Yazizimu has such a big side effect, will anyone really buy it in the market? Of course, and it's very popular. If this item is auctioned, it can be sold for at least 400 or 500 strings of cash. Many cultivators only care about immediate benefits, and don't care whether they have any connection with demons or not. After all, if you want to be devoured by Yazi, you must at least cultivate divine power to be qualified. New week. Please recommend, collect, and vote for me. Chapter 31 Soul Cutting. At night, in the backyard of the Golden Art Martial Arts School, a figure took a few steps to run, then swiftly climbed over the wall, and landed on the street. At this time, Two soldiers carrying long muskets happened to pass by, but they ignored this person who obviously did not take the usual route and walked straight past him. After the soldiers walked away, the figure was obviously relieved and thought to himself with some relief, "Fortunately, there is Chan Guang, otherwise I would have been caught on the spot." This figure is naturally Zhao Chen. During the day, after experiencing the pleasure of being taken to the B-sky by Sister Xingcha, he returned to the martial arts school and concentrated on practicing the Tai 5 element fist. Yan Xingcha interrogated the senior brother surnamed Sun, who was temporarily detained by the martial arts school, but he did not know much. It was obviously just a pawn blinded by greed. He had no idea about the whereabouts of Captain Crossing. In addition, he also bit another martial arts school disciple Hang Liu and said that he was his accomplice. But after Yan Hongxia's careful interrogation, she determined that, although Hang Liu also had evil intentions towards Zhao Chen, he was only deceived by senior brother Sun and did not have time to act, so she temporarily sent him back home. After all, the nature of Hang Liu's case was different from that of senior brother Sun. Even if he was a traitor and was planning to murder his junior brother, Master Huang should personally clean up the mess. And senior brother Huang Xianjun and senior brother Feng Kang didn't know what they were doing for Yan Hongxia. They didn't come back until the evening and hadn't freed up their hands to deal with it. However, Zhao Chen didn't intend to ignore this guy who planned to assist senior brother Sun in murdering him in the morning. He always repays kindness with kindness and revenge with revenge. It doesn't matter if he doesn't have the ability for the time being. Since he has the ability, he will naturally take revenge overnight. Of course, the other party is not guilty of death, and a small punishment is enough. Well, for example, contributing some money is a good way. After all, Zhao Chen is not financially independent at present, and he doesn't even dare to buy the ritual items required for the traveling merchant to receive the ordinary Orn ceremony. If the other party can be anxious about Zhao Chen, he will naturally be forgiven. After finding enough reasons, Zhao Chen, who was confident, identified the direction and went straight to Hang Liu's house. In the afternoon, he relied on the Teichu Jinyu guidance method to automatically strengthen his body and followed Yan Hongxia to Hang Liu's house to search, so he knew the way. Speaking of this Hang Liu, his family originally had quite a lot of assets, but since his parents passed away one after another, Hang Liu, who was not supervised, gradually became addicted to gambling and almost lost all his family wealth. In the end, it was Master Huang who dragged him out of the casino and saved his life, allowing him to keep several shops and at least have enough food and drink. But Hang Liu was grateful to Master Huang on the surface, but he didn't appreciate it in his heart and even thought that Master Huang blocked his fortune. Zhao Chen clearly remembered that after Hang Liu uttered this voice under Yan Hongxia's interrogation, the contempt and anger on the faces of several martial arts disciples such as Brother Chen, even Brother Sun, who was also on trial, spit on him. Hang Liu's house was not particularly far from the martial arts hall. After turning 3 streets, Zhao Chen arrived at his destination, then climbed into the backyard of his house and went straight to the main house. When he came to search during the day, he noticed that Hang Liu had placed all the valuables here. But as soon as Zhao Chen approached the house, he found that, although the lights were off, someone was talking, and it was not Hang Liu's voice. It seemed to be a woman. Could it be that she was targeting Hang Liu's colleagues? Zhao Chen's heart moved, and he quietly came to the window with the ability of a toad light ribbon to reduce the sense of presence, crouched down, and listened carefully. Lord Feng, this place was searched by Yan Hongxia during the day. Is it really safe for us to live here? A weak female voice asked hesitantly. It is precisely because it was searched that it is safe for a short time. Haha, it won't be long before Yan Hongxia leaves Bingquan town, and then there will be no need to hide like this. Another woman with a hoarse voice responded. For the sake of our plan, we contributed a magical weapon containing the spell of heart disease, and we also lost Captain Crossing who could cover our identities in public. Humph, when we meet next time, we must ask Lord Tiger to compensate us for our losses. The weak female voice said with some dissatisfaction. If you want Yan Hongxia to confirm that the events in Bingquan Town all originated from the Xingyang Temple and there are no other forces, this is a necessary price. And that crossing has become more and more presumptuous recently, and it is indeed time to abandon him. At this point, the horsewoman paused and asked, "Are you sure you have dealt with the body of crossing?" "Yes, Lord Feng. I tied him to a stone and threw him into the Xianjian River." Yan Hongxia chased him to the riverside and would only think that he escaped with the help of the river water to cover his breath. Speaking of which, Lord Feng, your divination skills are getting more and more powerful. You can even divine the shortcomings of Yan Hongxia's newly cultivated spells. A soft female voice chirped. "Actually, I'm a little surprised. I was just trying to tell fortunes, but who knew I could get such a clear answer?" At this point, the woman known as Feng seemed to have sensed something, and she looked towards the window, meeting the eyes of Zhao Chen who was eavesdropping and peeping. "Who is it? Come out." As the woman called Feng asked, a fireball with an astonishing temperature condensed in her palm in an instant. Seeing this, Zhao Chen, who knew that he had been exposed, secretly said not good. He just moved a little bit when the other party talked about relying on divination to get the disadvantages of Yan Hongxia's breath-seeking technique, and he was discovered. The opponent's strength is definitely not low, and judging from the fireball in his palm, he may already be a Mana Realm master. With this thought, Zhao Chen did not dare to be arrogant, and immediately entered the quiet state, and then visualized the 9 Yao gold seal, and exchanged his trump card in the Big Sun Star Chariot, Divine Power Monk Wang Dao IE. The next moment, just as the woman named Feng held the fireball, but did not fire it, and crushed towards the window at a very fast speed, countless sword energies composed of Yin Wind, Heart Wind, North Wind, and Gang Wind suddenly took shape in the main room. This is the 7th grade magical power Divine Wind Soul-Slaying Sword formation. In an instant, the sparrow fell to the ground in a rush, and there was no sound. While the fireball in the hand of the phoenix quickly extinguished, several rays of light appeared on his body. Magic power. Unbelievable. It is the magical power. The phoenix felt cold all over and used defensive spells continuously, with auras flashing on his body, but it was useless in front of the magic power. Because the only thing that can fight against the magic power is the magic power. Seeing this, the phoenix looked pale and had fallen into despair. But at this moment, an emotionless voice asked, "Do you admit that you belong to Zhao Chen and sell yourself too?" She didn't hear the last few words clearly, but this was enough to make her realize that, as long as she agreed, she could save her life temporarily. But the phoenix refused without hesitation. "I'm the servant of the god Tao Wu, and I will not sell myself to other demons." "Then please die." As soon as the voice fell, all the light on Lady Feng disappeared, and she fell to the ground without any breath. Chapter 32 Phoenix. Looking at the two silent witches in the house, Zhao Chen did not feel any discomfort from killing someone for the first time. He only recalled the despair of the woman named Feng who cast many spells before her death, but still felt helpless. He sighed sincerely. This is the magic power. No matter how powerful the spell is, it cannot defeat the magic power. Before in Mirror Village, because Wang Daozi was restrained by the Daoni transformed from his own shadow, he had little room to play, and he did not have a deep understanding of this sentence. But at this moment, Wang Daozi only descended into reality for a second, and the Divine Wind Soul-Slaying Sword formation he casually laid down could easily crush a powerful cultivator to death, making Zhao Chen thoroughly understand the weight of the word magical power. In fact, if Zhao Chen had not been short of star coins, and was only willing to exchange for Wang Daozi for 1 second, the follow-up would have been entirely due to the residual power of the magical sword formation. The protective spell of the woman called Phoenix would not have had any resistance effect at all, and would have been crushed like a dead tree in rotten wood, and killed instantly like the witch who fell by the window. This is only a 7th grade magical power. While sighing in his heart, Zhao Chen also opened the door and walked into the main hall, ready to touch the corpse to see if he could explode some equipment. You know, he came to Hong Liu's house tonight just to make some money, but he was forced to fight and even lost 300 star coins. If he can't get compensation from these two women, it will be a huge loss. Just now, in order to resist the magic power, 2 pieces of jewelry on the phoenix were broken one after another. Zhao Chen felt a little distressed, otherwise he would not have tried to sell her. Unfortunately, he didn't succeed. Zhao Chen first walked to the side of the who was lying on the window, then squatted down, turned her over, and saw her face clearly in the moonlight. What caught his eye was a pretty girl, who looked about 17 or 18 years old, dressed as a maid. Her face was paler this time, her eyes were wide open, but there was no spirit, as if she had lost her soul. And she really had lost her soul, because the divine wind soul slashing sword formation cuts the soul, but it does not harm the body. After a little hesitation, Zhao Chen still reached out and groped her body. After a search, only a few dozen copper coins stained with blood, a silver note with a face value of 30 guan, a small and exquisite pistol, and some bullets were found. All of this was not worth 150 guan. The most valuable thing might be this pistol, but its ammunition capacity was only 3 rounds. After a rough calculation in his mind, Zhao Chen turned his attention to the so-called Phoenix. However, he did not hold much hope in his heart. After all, the valuable things on the other party were probably destroyed by the divine wind soul slashing sword formation when fighting against the magical power. But before Zhao Chen could get close, something strange happened. I saw that the Phoenix suddenly burst into dazzling flames, and in an instant, her entire body was wrapped up, forming a cocoon made of flames. What is this? Zhao Chen was surprised, but he did not dare to delay. He immediately relied on visualization to enter the Great Sun Star Chariot, intending to use the remaining 460 star coins to exchange for the king's 1 second to completely solve the problem. But when he opened the Jade Book, while sitting on the 9-dragon throne, he unexpectedly saw a new product in the items for sale column, the descendant of the Phoenix who failed in Nirvana. Original name, Jane Lana Phoenix, a core member of the Taisi Phoenix family. Because she abandoned her family and turned to Tao Wu, she had to leave her hometown, come to Daxia, and join the Four Evil Hall. Every wizard of the Phoenix family has a certain chance of stimulating their blood after death, and relying on the incomplete Nirvana magical power in their blood to be reborn. It's just that after rebirth, their temperament will be shifted, which is quite different from their original self. Jane Lana Phoenix was killed by magical powers, and her soul completely dissipated. Even if the Nirvana power in her blood was successfully stimulated, she could no longer reunite the strangled soul, and thus failed. Original strength, level 3 wizard, corresponding to the Gangsha realm. Current status, a combination of Nirvana divine fire demon and Phoenix breaking filth gang. If separated, they can be used to condense 2 corresponding life spells. Recommended standard recycling price, 2000 star coins. In addition, the bird that Zhao Chen had just searched was also put on the goods for sale column, but the introduction only had a solitary sentence. The body of a cultivator in the key realm, who has opened 4 orifices, can be used as a corpse refining material. The recommended standard recycling price, 50 star coins. The introduction of this Phoenix was so detailed. Wizard? That's the name for practitioners in the West. TSK, I don't know what the so-called Phoenix family is from, and there are actually magical powers hidden in their blood. Moreover, she is actually a member of the Four Evil Hall. In other words, the mastermind behind the original owner's curse is actually the Four Evil Hall, not the Xingcha Temple as Yan Hongxia and the master thought. Listening to the conversation between the 2 witches just now, even the fact that Captain Crossing hired someone to assassinate me was a frame-up of this against the Xingcha Temple. Moreover, the reason why Yan Hongxia's seeking breath technique was leaked was not because of a problem with the source, but because of the divination of this Western witch. Well, the good news is that the bait mission I took from Yan Hongxia should be safe. After all, the Xingcha Temple probably still doesn't know what happened. It is purely a big innocent who takes the blame. How could it deliberately target me? The bad news is that, although I know that this is likely to have nothing to do with the Xingcha Temple, I can't tell Yan Hongxia. After all, I can't explain the source of the information. In addition, why did the people of the Four Evils try so hard to frame the Xingcha Temple? Alas, it's a pity that the souls of these 2 witches were chopped off, and they can't be brought in to make a blind box. But I don't have the means to bind the soul. While thinking, Zhao Chen sold the descendant of the phoenix who failed to achieve nirvana and corpse refining materials to the Dairi Xingcha without hesitation, which solved his hidden danger in reality. Looking at the balance, that became 28-10, Zhao Chen felt much more at ease. Then, after exchanging one Daozi for another second, he did not stay in the crossing for long, and returned to Hang Liu's main room. At this time, in the main room, except for a piece of charred black left on the ground by the flames, there was no trace of the two demon women. Because the previous battle was very short, the spell fluctuations were also covered by the divine wind soul severing sword formation, so there was no strange phenomenon and no one noticed. But the subsequent failed nirvana was different. Its blazing energy release may have alarmed the practitioners in the town, so as soon as he returned to the house, he let Wang Daozi roll up himself and crash through the roof and soar into the sky. He disappeared in an instant. About 10 seconds later, a figure supported by green clouds and mist fell from the sky. Chapter 33, The Ordination Ceremony. The first to arrive was naturally the red cloud sword Yan Hangxia. Although Zhao Chen secretly complained that her green mist cloud sky escape spell was too slow, that was only compared to Wang Daoi's transformation divine wind escape magical power. You should know that a large number of magic realm monks do not know how to fly and escape at all, and can only rely on their legs to travel. The fragrance of silk socks condenses green mist, and the golden hairpin turns into a sword and spits out red clouds. The person who gave her this poetic name put green mist cloud sky escape and the red emperor Yangyu and sword key of the Li family together, because they envied her for having such a very immortal life spell. At this time, Yan Hangxia, who entered the main hall, first glanced at the traces of fire on the ground, and then looked at the mess around her that was ravaged by the wild wind, and her eyebrows frowned tightly. As for Hang Liu, who was still sleeping soundly on the bed in the inner room, she only glanced at him and looked away. Next Yan Hangxia thought for a moment, and began to operate her own spells. But the next moment, blood spurted out of her mouth, and her whole spirit was instantly drained, and she couldn't even stand steadily. She quickly took out a pill and swallowed it, and then adjusted her breath for a moment, before she stabilized her state. Magic power. Just now, a cultivator with magical power attacked here. Yan Hangxia, whose spirit was still depressed, was shocked and felt that she was too unlucky to meet a master of the supernatural power realm in a small place like Bingquan Town. It turned out that she was using the breath-seeking technique to extract the breath left by the spell in order to track it. But the burn marks on the ground were okay. Although it also put a lot of burden on her, it was still within the tolerance range. But the hole in the roof and the wild wind breath left in the room were extremely powerful, far exceeding the limit of her spell. There was no doubt that it was left by the supernatural power. Yan Hangxia's heart was surging with turbulent waves, mixed with huge resentment. You are a master of the supernatural power realm. Even if you have only condensed an 8th or 9th grade supernatural power, the wild wind you released can destroy most of Bingquan Town. But you insisted on pretending to be at the level of only messing up the house. This is simply not a pockmarked person, but a pitfall. At this moment, an old man with white hair and beard, as thin as an old osprey, rushed in from outside. He was not surprised at first when he saw Yan Hangxia, but then he said in surprise, Yan Fu Mo envoy, are you injured? This old man is a worshipper of the Li family. He has reached the 4th realm of Tangxuan and the Gangsha realm. He is already over 100 years old and should have retired to a good age. However, he was moved by some of the promises made by Li Zhenxiao and came with him to Bingquan Town to take office and protect his safety. He is also the only cultivator in the 2 towns and 1 township who has cultivated magical powers. After the energy of the Nirvana flame was transmitted, he naturally came to check the situation. Although he is closer to here, he has no flying spell, so he came later than Yan Hangxia. Mr. Hu, you are here too. Yan Hangxia obviously knew the old man. She nodded, smiled bitterly and said, just a little bit of the residual power of the magic power hurt me, but fortunately the injury is not serious. In fact, she was seriously injured and could not use magic for at least 10 days. It's just that such things cannot be said to outsiders. Magic power! Exclamation mark. Even the over 100-year-old Mr. Who changed color after hearing these 2 words, even though he himself was already in the Gangsha realm, seemingly only 1 step away from divine power, but this step was a chasm. He calmed himself down and used his own corresponding spells to detect the remaining aura, but with Yan Hongxia's previous experience as a lesson, he only tried it briefly. Half a minute later, the old man surnamed Hu nodded and said, "It is indeed a divine power. As far as I know, in Newman County, and even in the entire Ganzhou territory, the only ones with wind-related magical powers are the Li family and the Taoist official office, right? It's not the Li family's soul-devouring yin wind, and in the Human County Taoist official office, only the examination envoy has the cultivation level of the divine power realm." Yan Hongxia shook her head slightly, and the meaning was very clear. The divine power that took action in Bingquan Town was a strange cultivator from outside. This involves divine power, which is no longer something we can handle. We must report it as soon as possible. Old Hu said solemnly. As soon as the sun rises, I will set off back to the county city to report to the examination envoy. Yan Hongxia nodded in agreement on the surface, but in fact she wanted to hide and recover from her injuries first, and then fly directly back to Human County City after she could use the Beiwu Yunshan done. After all, she was seriously injured, and forcing herself to travel might not only damage her foundation, but it might not be much faster than recovering from the injury first and then flying back. Upon hearing this, the old man surnamed Hu smiled and stroked his beard and said, "Since Yan Fumoshi has reported, there is no need for me to make an extra trip, so as not to let some scoundrels take advantage of the opportunity. Well, I will notify the garrison after I go back and ask him to send people to surround this house and protect the scene. Perhaps for safety reasons, or because it involves supernatural powers and needs to be cautious, or perhaps it just didn't occur to them. In any case, they both intentionally or unintentionally overlooked the existence of the telegraph as a means of communication. The next morning, Zhao Chen, who had watched the original owner's memories from the perspective of a ghost all night, had just finished his morning exercises and let the Tai 5 element fist operate on its own under the effect of the Taichu Golden Jade guidance method. He heard from his master that Yan Hongxia had left Bingquan Town early in the morning because of an emergency. An emergency? Could it be that she discovered the existence of supernatural powers and rushed back to report it? Zhao Chen's heart moved, and he immediately had a guess in his mind. He didn't know that his behavior last night had completely drained the spiritual power of his sister Hongxia and severely injured her. She was now hiding in seclusion to recover. But now that there is money donated by kind-hearted people, and Yan Hongxia has left Bingquan Town again, it is time to buy the corresponding items and hold a ceremony to be awarded the title of traveling merchant. With a plan in mind, Zhao Chen took advantage of the opportunity when his master and senior brother Feng were out again to go to work. He returned to his room under the pretext of practicing martial arts and ordered the servant Feng not to disturb him. Then, after putting on makeup, he used the power of the Changguan ribbon to sneak out of the martial arts hall. An hour later, he returned to his bedroom with a small bag under the cover of Changguan. Snake saliva incense, grass musk, dragon tip, yuan kun incense, plus a dozen different colors of cloth, incense burner, and 2 candles. These things were not expensive, and they only cost more than 30 coins in total. Zhao Chen did not even use the 30 strings of silver notes, but only spent the copper coins on the sparrow that were washed by the Kuangfeng. After placing these ritual items in the corresponding positions according to the requirements of the Jiu Yao Jinzang, Zhao Chen began to wash his hands and face, and then personally added various incense to the incense burner, lit the candles, and wrote his name on the prepared rice paper and lit it. Surrounded by colorful cloths, Zhao Chen had a serious expression on his face. He stepped on the magic circles according to specific directions and chanted to himself at the same time. The great sun in the starry sky, the Lord of Taoism comes. The 9-star golden seal, grant me the Dharma. From the first sentence, Zhao Chen felt his head begin to dizzy, and there was a buzzing sound in his ears, as if it came from infinitely far away, and yet seemed to be right next to him. That feeling was surprisingly similar to the first time he saw those indescribable things before entering the world. Chapter 34, 9th rank. As the ceremony progressed, the buzzing sound in Zhao Chen's ears became clearer and clearer, but he couldn't hear what was being said anyway. He just felt that his emotions were gradually becoming irritable and increasingly out of control. Fortunately, at this time, he finished reciting the spell. Almost at the same time, the candlelight and the smoke from the incense burner combined to form the shadow of the 9 lights golden seal. It hovered above Zhao Chen's head, shed a little golden light, and wrapped his whole body in it, making him look a little more holy. For a moment, Zhao Chen felt that every muscle was splitting and reorganizing, and every meridian was being repeatedly impacted. This feeling was like increasing the automatic bodybuilding speed of the Teichu Jinryu guidance method by dozens of times, putting him in an overloaded state. Wait. The effect of the Teichu Jinryu guidance method has been increased by dozens of times? As this thought flashed through his mind, Zhao Chen suddenly had a blessing. He endured the headache and entered the quiet visualization state and began to use spiritual perception to look inside his body. The next moment, he found that his body forging progress was growing rapidly. In just a few seconds, he surpassed the ordinary warrior's more than 10 years of hard study and practice, and surpassed the other practitioner's 100-day foundation building work, reaching the perfection of body forging. Zhao Chen did not dare to neglect it. He stood up immediately, took a stance, and posed the movements of Tai 5-element fist one by one, while practicing the subsequent mental method of Teichu Jinryu guidance method, and controlled himself with the meaning of Teichu. At this time, many streams of heat rose from the bone marrow, penetrated into the internal organs, passed through the 12 meridians, formed a big circle, operated the whole body, and finally returned to the Danshan. Body forging is perfect, and the true key is generated. Sensing his own state, even though he still had a splitting headache, Zhao Chen's face showed a surprised expression, because he not only broke through to the true key realm with the opportunity of receiving the talisman, but also opened up the 12 meridians at the same time. He only needed the 8 extraordinary meridians and some small meridians to achieve true key perfection. This is far beyond Yan Hangsh's expectations of me yesterday. She thought it would be great if I could open 2 of the 12 meridians when I broke through. Although she didn't know that I was practicing the perfect translation of the secret record of Kigan and the 12 gates of the Golden Tower and J Chamber. And after the 12 meridians are connected, it means that I'm qualified and capable of refining the 9 orifices of the eyes, ears, mouth, nose, front and back yin, and become a master like Yan Hangsh's uncle, Desert Eagle Yansan. Only if the 8 extraordinary meridians are not connected, the bridge between heaven and earth cannot be built. However, there is no content about refining orifices in the secret record of Kigan and the 12 gates of the Golden Tower and J Chamber. Well, with one Dairi, a supernatural power to protect me, I don't need to rush to refine orifices like ordinary cultivators. I can learn from the disciples of the upper sect and the aristocratic family. After the true key is perfected, I can open the 9 orifices in one fell swoop and build the bridge between heaven and earth. After all, I have achieved the first level of key and connected the 12 meridians. My starting point is much higher than others, so it shouldn't take long for my key to be perfect. And I can also use this time to try to find the subsequent exercises of the secret record of Kigan and the 12 doors of the Golden Building and J Chamber. Just as Zhao Chen was distracting himself by thinking, the golden light on his body finally dissipated completely, and the buzzing sound in his ears and the pain in his body also disappeared. Slowly exhaling a breath of turbid air, Zhao Chen first packed up the ritual items to prevent someone from suddenly coming in and seeing them, and then after a short rest, he entered into tranquility again, and felt the changes brought to him by receiving the talisman. First of all, his soul power has been greatly improved. He originally could only control his muscles and bones through the spiritual perception and Teichu Jinryu guidance method, but now he is more sensitive and can control the depths of his bones and the subtle corners of his body. Moreover, spiritual perception can not only stay there without meditation, but it can even be transformed into spiritual consciousness in just one step. Spiritual consciousness is a kind of spiritual power that can initially interfere with reality. It is one of the keys for the cultivators of the orifices to build the spiritual platform, build the bridge between heaven and earth, and lead the vital energy of heaven and earth into the body. Part of this improvement comes from the improvement of his own realm, but not much. Although true ki can also strengthen the soul, the effect is average. The secret record of Kigan and the 12 doors of the Golden Tower and J Chamber relies more on visualizing the Golden Tower and J Chamber of Xianyang for the practice of the soul. Secondly, it is the improvement of physical strength. He had a good experience of this when he broke through the true ki realm just now. The feeling of being soaring with crazy by the Teichu Jinryu guidance method now makes him feel a little scared when he thinks back. If it weren't for the golden light during the receiving the talisman that continuously provided energy, or spiritual energy, Zhao Chen felt that he would have been squeezed dry long ago. The so-called refining essence into ki. If there is no essence, then you can only refine yourself. Fortunately, the result was not bad. Zhao Chen tried to punch several times, and determined that his current body, whether in strength, endurance, speed, or reaction, exceeded the limits of ordinary people, and there was room for further improvement. However, he was still a flesh and blood body, and he would still die if shot by a bullet. After complaining in his heart, Zhao Chen continued to study the other abilities that the 9th grade position of traveling merchant brought him. Well, the shielding fear and eloquent abilities that he had when he was half a traveling merchant were not only retained, but also slightly strengthened. It can't be said to be strengthened, but I was given relevant introductions so that I can control it myself instead of being passively triggered like before. Well, this is good. Shielding fear seems good, which allows me to always focus on gains and losses and not be affected by fear. But if it is not controlled, it may also bring crisis. For example, in extreme cases, will I also sell the rope to hang myself to the enemy? After all, this is the essence of a businessman. As for being good at speaking, as I guessed before, it was also based on my own cultivation and knowledge reserves, and I subconsciously chose the most appropriate words. But it was just I think that it was the most appropriate. It seems that I still need to study psychology and interpersonal relationships more in the future. Fortunately, Zhao Liu and others taught me a lot of experience in this area, and I can now recall it clearly. In addition to these two abilities, I also have the relevant knowledge of magic spell that can be used in the ki realm. Well, this spell is called God Travel Spell. As long as I use my own blood to draw the corresponding runes on the cut paper horse, and then stick the paper horse on my legs, I can travel 800 miles a day after pinching the formula and chanting the spell. But this spell also has taboos. That is, it cannot be used at night, otherwise it will be taken into an unknown space by the paper horse. This taboo is not difficult to overcome, just don't use it at night. Traveling merchant position. This God Travel spell embodies travel, right? Just as Zhao Chen successfully became a traveling merchant, in the basement of a house in Bingquan town, a young man was sitting on an altar made of various blood foods. The ferocious monster phantom above his head cast a bloody light, covering his whole body. The young man's face was distorted with pain, but it could be vaguely identified that he was Aunt May's younger brother, the young man with oily hair and powdered face. Not far from the altar, several people in black robes were watching this scene quietly. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 35 Alienation and True Ki. As the bloody smell in the basement became stronger and stronger, the young man surnamed Mei also wailed in pain under the reflection of the blood red light. Then his teeth became sharp, his mouth continued to protrude forward, and black hair grew all over his body. Seeing this, one of the many black-robed people suddenly said, "Lord Tiger, I'm afraid he can't survive the ceremony of granting the vow." The leading tiger nodded slightly, and said with some emotion and regret, "6th grade vow. Lord Yazzie seems to be in a good mood today, and he actually directly granted him the 6th grade vow. However, I originally wanted to get a mentally normal Avenger, but it's a pity." At this point, he changed the subject and continued, "Fortunately, this is expected. Even if he is an ordinary person without cultivation and takes on the 9th grade vow, he still has a 60% to 70% chance of becoming a god's blood descendant. Well, as long as his hatred for guarding Li Lake is still there will be no problem. Or rather, it saves me a lot of effort. After all, it is normal for a 6th rank descendant of God to break through the protection of Osprey Old Man Hu Lianchi and kill the garrison. By then, even if someone from the Li family comes to investigate, they will only think that it was the man surnamed Many who got Fang Zu's skills and sought power from the god for revenge. And after Li Hu dies, the next town guard can be replaced by the person we arrange. The other black-robed men heard what Tiger said and naturally understood what he meant, and they all praised, Lord Tiger is very smart. Before long, the Chijin area will be completely ours. It turns out that Lord Tiger had already calculated this when he made a deal with Fang Zuzi at the county city gathering and exchanged the secret record of the Curse of Yazi with him. He's really amazing. Yes, so Lord Tiger arranged for me to use Fang Zuzi to test Zhao Chen's companion magic weapon and then let him suffer the backlash and transform into a descendant of the Yazi god together with Aunt Mary. All of this is actually paving the way for this last step. Lord Tiger, Before they finished speaking, Tiger waved his hand and said modestly, don't flatter me like that. I just found that Fang Zuzi sold a lot of precious things in several markets and guessed that he might have some secrets, so I followed him to the Red Gold Mountain and found the hidden Demon King ruins. There are many coincidences in this, and most of my strategies are just to take advantage of the situation. Although he said so, his face hidden in the hood of his black robe was full of smiles, and it was obvious that he liked to hear what his subordinates said. Being able to take advantage of the situation shows that your planning level is higher, Lord Tiger. After the fox complimented Tiger again, his eyes turned and he said, by the way, Lord Feng has also successfully framed the head of the police as a member of the Xingyang Temple accomplice. The new head of the police will be someone we arranged. Hearing the name of Feng, Tiger restrained his smile, nodded and said, what about her? Lord Feng and Sparrow should have hidden themselves and have not responded to your summons. Fox said with a smile. Humph. Forget about not coming. Although we belong to the same Yao Wu Hall, that foreign woman is not the same kind of people as us after all. Tiger snorted and turned to Fox and asked, how is the situation over there? Any latest news? Don't worry, Lord Tiger, Zhao Song has completely fallen into my control. In addition, there is indeed a new news, that is, Yan Hangsha has returned to the county city for urgent matters. Fox reported with a smile. It's good that Yan Hangsha has left. After Huang Xianjun leaves in a few days, let this kid surnamed Mei go to revenge, which will allow him to accumulate more anger during these few days. At this point, Tiger glanced at Fox and warned, don't go too far. If Li finds out about the problem and tells Li Hu now, the situation will get out of control. I can't help it. In order to control Zhao Song, I have to try my best to satisfy him. He doesn't have the extra energy to feed Li, and it's none of my business. As she spoke, she suddenly noticed the cold gaze of Tiger looking at her and suddenly realized that she had disobeyed him in her complacency. She hurriedly said in panic, Lord Tiger, please rest assured, I have been taken as Zhao Song's concubine. Li Ziying at most thinks that Zhao Song has been seeking novelty these days and has not suspected anything else. It's good that you know it. Tiger looked away and looked at the young man named Mei who had completely transformed into a monster on the altar. Then he stretched out his palm and threw out a rope that was invisible to the naked eye and tied it accurately around the other's neck. The monster, which was originally ferocious, suddenly fell to the ground and expressed its submission to Tiger. In fact, it was not only it, but all the black-robed people present also knelt on the ground at the same time. An invisible rope extended from the neck of each of them and finally gathered in the palm of Tiger. In the bedroom in the backyard of the Golden Art Martial Arts Hall, Zhao Chen visualized the Xianyang Golden Tower and Jade Room map, with the meaning of Teichu hanging high in his soul, guiding and refining his newly formed true energy. The method of visualization is not to visualize the architectural structure of the Xianyang city of the Kunlun school, but to visualize its divine will. As the saying goes, the 5 emperors key refines the Yuanzhang palace, and the Golden Tower and Jade Chamber give birth to immortals. Under Zhao Chen's guidance, the newly born true key and Anshan continued to condense and change, and gradually had some magical feelings. After a long time, Zhao Chen ended his visualization, let out a long breath, and was filled with joy. After the previous exercise, he successfully transformed his true ki into the 5 immortal spiritual ki mentioned by Xingcha in the introduction of the secret record of ki movement in the 12 doors of the Golden Tower and Jade Chamber. This 5 immortal spiritual ki is indeed more condensed than ordinary true ki, and its quality is very high. Circulating it for a week will increase the body and soul by a lot more than ordinary true ki. However, it doesn't seem to be as magical as Miss Ki's Great Compassion and Great Mercy Universal Salvation Ki. Or maybe I haven't discovered it yet, and the description of the spiritual energy of the 5 immortals in the secret record of Kigan of the 12 doors of the Golden Tower and Jade Chamber is the Jade Maiden pours 5 kinds of incense, the Holy Mother celebrates the longevity, the 3 realms rejoice, and bow to the Taoist Lord. What does this mean? Xingcha won't translate it again. Still think I should understand it? But I'm just a graduate student majoring in archaeology. Although I have studied some Taoist classics privately, how can that be enough? Chapter 36 The 5 Immortals. Magical Weapon, Toad Light. After wearing it, you can use the spell "Blind Mind," which takes advantage of psychological blind spots, hides in the dark, and puts yourself in a "blind spot" of consciousness. Starch as standard recycling price. 1300 star coins. Magical weapon, wine chopping sword. The long sword made of "tie true gold" looks ordinary, but it can carry the magical power "Shen Feng soul chopping sword formation," allowing the sword formation to last forever. Starch as standard recycling price. 2800 star coins. Fire gun, sparrow feather. Originally owned by Sparrow, a member of the "For Evil Hall," it contains his spiritual imprint, which has now dissipated, and is just an ordinary fire gun. It has slightly weaker power, but its shape is small and exquisite, suitable for assassination. Starch as standard recycling price. 10 star coins. Superior material, Zhao Zizimu. After taking it, the eye orifice will be opened immediately, and the spell-like ability Cursed Evil Pupil can be used, but it will establish a connection with the evil spirit Yazi. Starch as standard recycling price. 400 star coins. In the magnificent palace where most of the area was shrouded in fog, Zhao Chen, sitting on a chair made of 6 golden dragons, shifted his gaze away from the standard prices of Yazizimu and Kling, nodded silently, and said to himself, according to what I have learned in the past few days, the price of an ordinary pistol is roughly between 5 and 10 strings of cash. Although Yazizimu can be sold for 500 strings of cash according to Yan Hangsha, that's because many people need it, and there is a premium. So, the value of 1 star coin is indeed similar to 1 string of cash. At least at this stage. After all, the more precious the item, the greater the premium will be in reality. It is normal for things at the Dongzuan level to be several times or even dozens of times higher in price. Of course, that level is still far away from me. I'm just a rookie in the first level of Tongzuan now. After studying the nature of the 5 immortal spiritual ki for a long time, Zhao Chen still had no choice but to give up temporarily. Then he entered the Great Sun Star Raft to see if the complete 9th grade position could pry open more permissions for the Star Raft in addition to the function of the 8 diagrams bright light mirror. However, to his disappointment, the content in the Jade Book did not increase or decrease, and the demon sealing vermilion pen was still difficult to control. Only the phantom of the mark left by the 9 lights gold seal in the air changed slightly, from the 9th grade position Galactic Transport Deputy Envoy to the 8th grade position Starboat Guardian. It was obviously painting a pie for Zhao Chen, telling him the direction of his next efforts. Although this name looks very impressive, just like the common name of traveling merchant for Deputy Envoy of Galaxy Transportation, this 8th grade position soon revealed its true form, and showed a popular translation, Sequence 8, Bodyguard. Very good, from a seller to an escort, this makes sense. By the way, the pinnacle of this system can't be a certain treasure or a certain dong, right? It can't be a certain Zixi? After complaining a few words in his heart, Zhao Chen stopped paying attention. After all, he needed to find 2 more lost accessories to upgrade the position to the 8th grade, and he didn't even have any clues about the other accessories. Putting down the 9 lights gold seal, Zhao Chen opened the jade book again, glanced at the balance of 25 10-star coins, and browsed the product list again. Since he still had lingering fears about the memory blind box, he was not prepared to try it easily before his combat power was greatly improved. He still couldn't afford Wang Daoi's secret Divine Wind 9 Swords True Secret, so Zhao Chen focused on the 2 secret books that Fang Zuzi had exploded at the beginning. The fragment of secret record of the Curse of Jiaozi, the true key volume of the godly lore of Jadu Star. According to the introduction, the former is just a secret book that records several curse spells, while the latter is a method. One technique and one method. Obviously the latter is more precious, and this is also the case from the exchange price given by Xingcha. But I already have the basic skills of the key realm, and according to the images I saw from Fang Zuzi's memory, this Jidu is probably a demon, and practicing its skills may cause problems. Although Jiaozi is also a demon, the secret record of Jiaozi's curse is only in the category of skills, so the problem will not be too big. Studying it can not only increase your knowledge and enrich your experience, but may also help you find the real reason behind the original owner's death. Thinking of revenge for the original owner, Zhao Chen also had a headache. Because after killing the so-called Feng last night, the progress of the revenge mission was also advanced a little, and Zhao Chen also got the original owner's Qinat ability. The original Zhao Chen was not only excellent in calligraphy and painting, but also had a considerable level of Qinat and chess art, but it was relatively worse than calligraphy and painting. The progress of the revenge mission shows that the matter behind the original owner's death has far exceeded Zhao Chen's initial expectations. You know, the strength of the Phoenix alone was judged by Xingcha to be the Gangsha level of the 4th level of Tungsten. Who knows how many masters of the 4 evil halls are lurking in the Chijin area. And from their actions of blaming the Xingyang temple and using the hands of the Taoist officials to drive this evil organization similar to Thiz out of Bingpan town, their plot is definitely not small. This is completely beyond Zhao Chen's current ability. Even if there is a kingly way to protect the way, it is not safe. After all, the 4 evil halls is an organization that worships demons, and the weakest among the demons is also at the divine power level. If we take things slow, we'll get through it. We'd better leave this place first and come back to investigate after we have the power to protect ourselves. Before that, try to collect abnormal information about the Chijin area from the side, and when a complete chain of evidence or logic is formed, find a safe way to submit some of the intelligence we have to Yan Hangsha. Well, if I have enough star coins, I can ask Wang Daoi to report it. The words of the supernatural realm cultivators will definitely be taken seriously. After sighing slightly, Zhao Chen spent 300 star coins to exchange for the secret record of the Curse of Jiaozi and studied it carefully. The next morning, as soon as Feng Wu, the servant carrying the breakfast box, entered the backyard, he heard a burst of exciting and inspiring piano music coming from the house, which made him, who was yawning, suddenly energetic. But he felt a little strange in his heart, because although the young master used to play the piano, the music he played always made him drowsy, but it was not as exciting as it is now, which makes people want to do something for the young master when they listen to it. After entering the house and meeting the young master himself, this feeling became even stronger. He felt that his young master Chen was full of affinity in every move, and any casual words made him feel excited, and he regarded him as a guiding principle. But this feeling came and went quickly when the young master began to eat the breakfast he brought. Although his elegance remained the same, he no longer had the urge to worship him. Feng Wu didn't care, just thinking it was the influence of the piano sound. After all, he heard from several older sisters that when the young master's biological mother played the piano, birds lingered over the Zhao residence for a long time and were reluctant to leave, and it is still talked about today. Zhao Chen, who was eating happily, didn't notice Feng Wu's change of mind. He just felt itchy after waking up in the morning and played a general's order from his previous life using the piano art ability given by the original owner. When the song reached its climax, Zhao Chen's emotions gradually blended into it. The 5 immortal spiritual key circulated on its own, giving the song some unusual meaning, but he didn't know it yet. After breakfast, Zhao Chen rushed to the main hall to pay his respects to his master. When passing by the white sand martial arts training ground in the front yard, he was surprised to see that there were not only 3 or 5 people here like in the past few days, but more than 10 people again. However, the only familiar face was senior brother Chen, who was devoted to practicing the Tai 5 element boxing. Seeing brother Chen, Zhao Chen thought of what Hang Liu said when he confessed that day he was responsible for intercepting brother Chen's interference, but he didn't have time to take action. He stopped, took the initiative to step forward to say hello, and thanked him at the end. I also want to thank you for standing up for me the day before yesterday. Brother Chen waved his hand and said shyly, "Brother, please don't make fun of me. I had just thought of stopping brother Sun, and you had already won." At this point, he remembered his speculation the day before, and his lips moved a few times. Finally, he couldn't help asking, "Brother Zhao, have you already entered into a state of tranquility? If so, can you tell me what kind of state of tranquility is?" With his somewhat introverted personality, he would not have asked such a question involving other people's privacy, but for some reason, he always felt that brother Zhao was very kind today, so he opened his mouth. Chapter 37, Drifting. Senior brother Chen, whose name is Zhu, is from the Chen family of Chijin Town. However, he is born out of wedlock and lives a very tight life. He spends all his money on buying herbs to nourish his body, which shows his desire for the Tao. Unfortunately, he is just an average person and has not reached perfection after practicing martial arts for 10 years. So the day before yesterday, when he found that Zhao Chen had entered into tranquility, he showed envy and yearning. He had been wanting to talk to Zhao Chen about entering tranquility these 2 days, but because he was shy and introverted, he didn't know how to start the conversation. Who would have thought that he blurted it out just now? Faced with senior brother Chen's request, Zhao Chen did not refuse, but he still had to go see his master and didn't have time to talk in detail at the moment, so he made another appointment with the other party. In response, Chen Zhu also breathed a sigh of relief and agreed. He regretted it as soon as he said it just now, but fortunately the result was good, otherwise he would have fled in embarrassment. So he unconsciously felt a little closer to Zhao Chen. After talking to Chen Zhu for a few more words, Zhao Chen bowed and said goodbye, then crossed the yard and entered the main hall. As soon as he entered the door, he saw brother Feng Kang smiling and greeting him, and then boastingly said, "Brother Zhao, I successfully entered the state of tranquility this morning." Zhao Chen first bowed to the master sitting in the main seat, and then looked at brother Feng, who was burly, with broad shoulders and back, and smiled. Then congratulations, brother, on your success in asking the mystery. You are about to enter the state of understanding the mystery, and cultivate true Qi. Brother Feng has been training his body for more than 10 years, and is also Master Huang's disciple. His foundation is extremely solid. Once he enters the state of tranquility, he will probably achieve the true Qi realm in a few days. But his soul power is not too strong, and he can probably only barely see inside. It will take a lot of effort to open up the 12 meridians. You just relied on a secret treasure of Xingjiang Temple to force yourself to be quiet. Is it worth showing off like this? Master Huang on the side sneered, looking down on his apprentice's show-off behavior. Hearing this, senior brother Feng didn't care. It was common for the master to criticize him. If he cared about this, he would have been depressed a long time ago. Isn't it learned from you? I think you are the one who can show off the most. Zhao Chen complained in his heart, but on the surface he asked curiously, the secret treasure of Xingjiang Temple. Senior brother Feng glanced at the owner Huang's Zianjun, and when he saw the latter nodded, he said, "Junior brother is one of us. It doesn't matter if I tell you. Well, you should know that the master and I have been helping Hangsha sword these 2 days, right?" "I know, Sister Hangsha told me." Zhao Chen nodded. "Sister Hangsha." Feng Kang was stunned and looked at Zhao Chen meaningfully and seemed to be more relieved, and continued, "In addition to taking the opportunity to gather the scattered people in Chijin Town and Jinwen Township, my master and I have helped Hangsha Sword deal with a batch of items that she had seized from Xiaoshan Temple and had not handed in before. Yan Hangsha is indeed an official, and she is very good at this kind of work. Moreover, it will not be easy to find out in the future if a local snake-like master who is about to leave the Chijin area is used to do things. Although I think this is the benefit that the government tacitly allows to Taoist officials. In addition, Yan Hongxia has the support of the Li family and is not afraid of others using this to make trouble. So, does Sister Hongxia also want to show goodwill to the master, or to show goodwill to the Yuan sect behind the master? Well, although the master was expelled from the sect, judging from the fact that he still has the authority to teach the Yuan sect skills, the relationship between the master and the Yuan sect may be quite complicated. TSK, 3 birds with 1 stone. At least senior brother Feng benefited from this matter, and Master Huang must be grateful for this favor. Almost in an instant, Zhao Chen guessed all the twists and turns in Yan Hongxia's heart, and once again secretly sighed, "It's worthy of being in the officialdom." When Feng Kang saw that Zhao Chen understood what he meant, he sighed that, although his junior brother was young, he was born in a merchant family and had a family background, and continued, "And doing this kind of thing, it's normal to lose some things as a reward. After all, my master and I have taken risks. So we took 3 things including the heart-light mirror." Before he finished speaking, Huang Xianjun on the side coughed heavily and interrupted him. Feng Kang immediately realized that he was a little too proud. How could he tell his junior brother how much he had lost? After all, the other party called Sister Hongxia so intimately. What if he told her later? Huang Xianjun looked at Feng Kang strangely at this time. In his mind, his third disciple seemed honest and simple, but in fact he was very slippery and shouldn't make such a low-level mistake. While wondering, his eyes swept over Zhao Chen again. At first he didn't find anything, but he soon realized that something was wrong, and said in surprise, "Chenna, have you cultivated true ki?" Cultivated true ki. Although junior brother Zhao is a natural cultivator, doesn't he have to go through 100 days of foundation building before he can cultivate true ki? The day before yesterday, when he subdued junior brother Sun, although he also defeated the enemy with 1 move, he used skills instead of real strength. Could it be that the master's eyes were blurry and he saw it wrong? Senior brother Feng, with many thoughts in his mind, looked at Zhao Chen in disbelief. Although Zhao Chen was shocked, he just nodded and admitted, "Master has a keen eye. I successfully opened up Danshan and cultivated true ki last night." No wonder Kane just said everything just now. He must have been affected by the characteristics of your true ki. I've always heard that after the Zhang family integrated the 5 emperors paying homage to the truth of Kunlun Xianyang city into their own inheritance, the magical practitioners they produced, both male and female, were all graceful and approachable, but I didn't expect that this more basic secret record of Kigan and the 12 doors of the Golden Tower and J Chamber could also achieve this effect. Huang Xianjun sighed when he heard this, then he smiled at Zhao Chen and said meaningfully, "Hongxia is really concerned about you. Master, why do I feel that your smile is a little indecent?" Zhao Chen, who was a little scared by being looked at, complained in his heart, and after a little thought, he understood what the master meant. He thinks that I can achieve true ki so quickly and cultivate true ki to be magical. Is it because Yan Hongxia gave me some natural treasures? In addition, no matter whether it is a man or a woman, people like to get close to me. Is this the so-called Jade Girl pours 5 spices, the Holy Mother celebrates 10,000 years, the 3 realms are happy, and bows to the Taoist? Although Huang Xianjun's guess was not related to the words prepared by Zhao Chen, the latter did not refute it. He rolled his eyes, then showed a surprised expression, and asked, "My true ki affected my brother? I don't even know what it does. In addition, what does this have to do with the Li family?" Chapter 38 about to depart. Huang Xianjun stroked his grey beard and asked with a smile, "I remember telling you before that hundreds of years ago, Dunhuang and many large and small oases suddenly appeared in the endless desert outside Human, right? Here it comes." Zhao Chen was refreshed, knowing that his master had once again entered the state of showing off tireless teaching. At first he thought his master was just like this, but now he thought that this might also be related to the practice his master had practiced. Just like Miss Qi who practiced the Great Compassion and Great Mercy, Guanzi Heart Sutra found it difficult to refuse others' reasonable requests. Did King Yu control the flood and benefit the people? Zhao Chen was muttering to himself, but on the surface he was tactful and flattering. Yes, you also said that it was because the Zhang family obtained the heritage of Dun Huang that the family was able to give birth to the immortal Dongsun and become a prominent family in Ganzhou. Huang Xianjun smiled and nodded. Dun Huang and those suddenly appearing oases are all affiliated forces of the ancient Kunlun Sects Xianyang city lineage. So the Dun Huang heritage obtained by the Li family and the true key method transmitted from the oasis have the same origin. Master, I heard from a friend of the Li family that the Kunlun sect once had 9 great magical powers, which were directly passed down from Taichu Daogen, and all ranked first. These 9 great magical powers were passed on to the 9 disciples of Taichu Daogen respectively, and later gradually evolved into the 9 sects of Kunlun. Among them, the sect of Xianyang City is in charge of the first grade great magical power 5 emperors paying homage to the truth, and the basic practice of its true key stage is the secret record of Kigan and the 12 doors of the Golden Tower and Jade Chamber. 5 emperors paying homage to the truth. The spiritual true key of the 5 immortals. So, if I want the subsequent practices of the secret record of Kigan and the 12 doors of the Golden Tower and Jade Chamber, I have to find a way from the Li family? While thinking in his heart, Zhao Chen saw that his master paused, so he continued to ask very consciously, Master, what's the problem with my true energy? How can it affect my brother? Don't worry, listen to what the master says. Well, according to my friend, when the real 5 emperors pay homage to the truth magical power is revealed, when fairies dance, emperors bow, and all the people bow their heads and worship together, the beauty of the great Dao immortals is fully displayed. It's a pity that the 5 emperors pay homage to the truth magical power obtained by the Li family does not have the Dongsuan method, and many of the Dao characters in it are obscure and difficult to understand, so they have to find another way. Haha, it's actually normal. How can the Dao characters be so easy to understand? In the whole Daxia, except for the Shengsuan existence and the 9 major sects and 12 aristocratic families, who else dares to claim that he can perfectly interpret the Dao characters? The Li family can't even perfectly decipher the ancient cloud seal in the secret records of Kigan and the 12-story Golden Tower and Jade Chamber, let alone the sequel. In short, the ancestor of the Li family was a man of extraordinary talent. He integrated his own sword cultivation heritage into the Xianyang city skills, and eventually obtained the 5 sword techniques of the Green Emperor's soul protecting sword, the White Emperor's soul serving sword, the Red Emperor's essence nourishing sword, the Black Emperor's blood passing sword, and the Yellow Emperor's central sword. After each of the 5 sword techniques is cultivated to perfection, it can achieve magic power and practice a sword key type innate magic. You should have seen Hangsha's methods. She practiced the Red Emperor's essence nourishing sword key, one of the 5 sword techniques. But unfortunately, the Li family's clan protecting magical power, the 5 emperors paying homage to the truth sword, which was ultimately condensed, based on the 5 sword energies, ultimately deviated from the original intention of the 5 emperors paying homage to the truth great magical power. Also, because it was a sword cultivation method, it was instead focused on being sharp and domineering, and was barely ranked as a 3rd grade power. But even so, with this magical power as a basis, the Li family also gave birth to the immortal Dongzuan. That's a bit far-fetched. In short, the original beauty of the 5 emperors paying homage to the truth was also one-sidedly reflected in the beauty of manners and postures. Therefore, both male and female cultivators of the Li family's magic power are often charming, respected, and sought after. Even those with magical powers and evil spirits also have excellent looks and are very approachable. I don't know what the foundation treasure that Hangsha gave you is, and I won't ask, but I think it should be something from the Li family, which is why the true key you cultivated with the secret records of Kigan and the 12-story building of the Golden Tower and Jade Chamber has this kind of magical effect in advance. The 5 emperors pay homage to the truth, the beauty of the great Dao. I roughly guessed what the so-called Jade Maiden pours 5 incense. The Holy Mother celebrates the 10,000 years. The 3 realms are happy and bow to the Taoist Lord means. No wonder the introduction of the Star Chariot says that the spiritual true key of the 5 immortals is the foundation of cultivation of the Kunlun Xianyang city lineage. If you don't understand its true meaning, the subsequent exercises cannot be cultivated normally. But the Li family has a Dongsuan real person, but they can't perfectly interpret the ancient cloud seal. This shows that the big sun star chariot is at least a thing at the Shengsuan level. In addition, Master, there are many secrets of the Li family in your words just now, right? Is it really okay to say this? Your friend from the Li family really told you everything. But will it be dangerous if I know it? As his thoughts turned, Zhao Chen considered and said, Master, isn't it inappropriate to tell me what your friend told you? I've already told you, whether it's appropriate or not. Do you think I'm going to silence you? Huang Xianjun glanced at him with a half smile. How could he not guess what he was thinking? Then he changed the subject and stroked his beard and said, don't worry, what I said are all the contents that the Li family deliberately made public. Otherwise, why do you think the secret record of Kigan and the 12-story building of the Golden Tower and Jade Chamber has been circulated so widely? Isn't it because the Li family wants to gather everyone's wisdom to crack the essence of that ancient cloud seal? It's a pity that there are still no good translations. The ones I translated are all top-notch. Top-notch worth 10-star coins. After Zhao Chen complained in his heart, he was relieved and asked, Master, how can I restrain the magical power of true ki? I can't keep this influence all the time, otherwise it will be easy to get into trouble. He just said that there was something wrong with Brother Chen's eyes just now. Seeing that his disciple could understand this, Huang Xianjun nodded with satisfaction and said with a smile, you have just broken through, and your control over true ki is still relatively poor, so this situation will occur. Once you are proficient, you will be able to control it freely. In addition, with the supernatural power brought by your true ki now, it can at most affect ordinary warriors, and, as he said, he glanced at Feng Kang next to him, and continued, and cultivators like your senior brother who do not have strong soul power. So try to restrain yourself at ordinary times, and use it at critical moments to achieve good results. But, Master Huang stopped here and deliberately looked at Zhao Chen a few times. Zhao Chen felt uneasy when he was looked at, and could not help but ask, but what? Hall Master Huang Xianjun laughed, squinted his eyebrows, as if his conspiracy had succeeded, and said, but the changes in spirit and energy brought about by true ki cannot be restrained, and Zhao Chen, you are so handsome, I'm afraid there will be troubles in the future. Isn't this a good thing? Zhao Chen laughed at himself in his heart, but he showed a bewildered look on the surface. At this time, senior brother Feng patted Zhao Chen on the shoulder and said earnestly, this is the master's daily style. Junior brother, you must adapt to it as soon as possible. After speaking, he sighed again. After I entered into tranquility, I wanted to compete with junior brother to see who can refine true ki first. Who wants to lose from the beginning? But it's good, with your true ki realm, even in the county city, the martial arts school can barely gain a foothold, and the master doesn't have to fight hard anymore. Hearing this, Zhao Chen's heart moved, looking at Huang Xianjun who was in the main seat, and asked, Master, are we going to human? The original agreement was a deadline of 7 days, how can it really be delayed to the 7th day? And the staff of the martial arts school scattered in 2 towns, and 1 township have been recalled, so there is no reason to delay. So, after the practice banquet tomorrow, we will set off the day after tomorrow. Huang Xianjun nodded, and said with a somewhat melancholy look. After all, he had lived in Bingquan town for many years, so he was still a little reluctant to leave, and he had not yet achieved his original intention of coming to Bingquan town. Forget it, Human is only about 400 miles away from Bingquan town, and he can come back at any time. Recalling the people scattered in the Chijin area, Zhao Chen thought of the dozen new faces in the martial arts training ground outside, and said thoughtfully, those people outside. Yes, except for junior brother Chen Zhu, the rest are. They were originally in charge of the streets and villages below. Yes, before that martial arts competition, the master was the leader of the underworld in the Chijin area, and naturally there were direct descendants to maintain the order he established. Zhao Chen suddenly realized, and then asked, what about senior brother Chen? Feng Kang explained with a smile, Chen Zhu is a member of the Chen family in Chijin town. Like other martial arts disciples, his home is in 2 towns and 1 township. How could he follow us to the county town? They are different from you, junior brother Zhao. You and the master are nominally master and apprentice, but in fact you are partners. No wonder the martial arts school disciples switched to the sand snakes. You and the master didn't care at all. It turns out that they don't have much weight in the master's eyes. But since senior brother Chen will stay, when I meet him later, I might as well find a way to develop him into my spy and let him help me keep an eye on the slightest movement in Bingquan town. Well, he lives a rather tight life, so I can start from this aspect. Chapter 39 Zhao Song's Abnormality. After asking his master for advice on cultivation, Zhao Chen left the main hall and practiced basic swordsmanship on his own in the white sand covered martial arts field for a whole morning, before returning to his own courtyard. Speaking of which, Zhao Chen's current level of being able to spiritual perception, to illuminate his entire body and his true ki to penetrate the 12 meridians, his speed, strength, and reaction are far superior to normal people. Even if he has never practiced swordsmanship, he can defeat ordinary warriors without any moves, and play the effective 9 swords of Dubu by striking first, after being struck last. But that is only bullying for physical training warriors, and if the attack from more than 10 feet away is fast enough, he may not be able to react in time, such as firearms. Therefore, Zhao Chen put the initial mastery of a true ki realm martial art and further enhanced his self-protection ability on the agenda. After all, you can't just let Wang Daozi come to the rescue when something happens, right? Although according to Yan Hongxia, the first choice of martial arts in the ki realm is gunfighting, but the master and senior brother have been very busy with the relocation of the martial arts hall recently, and they may not have the time to teach him before settling down. So Zhao Chen cast his eyes on the only ki martial arts Dairi Xingcha sword in the secret record of ki exercise in the 12 doors of the Golden Building and J Chamber. Moreover, Dairi Xingcha sword is not a single sword method. It is also a method to assist in practice and enhance the control of the spiritual ki of the 5 immortals. It can reconcile the 3 treasures of essence, ki, and spirit. When practiced to perfection, it can even cultivate a 3-in-1 sword ki to kill the soldiers 5 or 6 feet away. However, if you want to practice this Dairi Xingcha sword, you must first practice the basic swordsmanship. After all, the superior swordsmanship is split up, and each move is also a basic sword style. Only by consolidating the foundation first can the subsequent practice be more effective. Fortunately, Zhao Chen's soul power is relatively strong, and he has a strong control over his body. It took others several months to master the basic swordsmanship movements, but he only took one morning to fully understand them, and made corresponding adjustments according to his own needs. He was quite like Zhang Wuji in Jin Yang's novels. After he mastered the 9 Yang magic skills, he was fast in learning any martial arts. But Zhao Chen knew that this was just his illusion. After all, he practiced the basic skills passed down by the Taoist primordial master. Of course, it would seem fast for a cultivator to learn ordinary martial arts. In addition, ordinary cultivators would not have their souls so strong that their spiritual perception would almost transform into spiritual consciousness as soon as they cultivated true ki. Not to mention reflecting a 10-foot wide body, it was normal for senior brother Feng to be able to barely see inside. Back to the point. After practicing swordsmanship, Zhao Chen went back to his room, took a shower, changed his clothes, and then went out again to a nearby restaurant, where senior brother Chen Zhu had already been waiting outside a private room. Next, while eating and drinking, Zhao Chen explained in detail his various feelings about entering tranquility, and unobtrusively recommended the calming incense made by his master to Chen Zhu. This thing can indeed help cultivators to embrace the yuan and guard the oneness. For a martial artist like Brother Chen who has practiced martial arts for more than 10 years, and maybe just one step away from the final step, there is still a little chance that he can enter tranquility with it. Brother Chen was very yearning to hear it, and his eyes lit up when he knew the effect of calming incense, but when he heard the price of 800 coins per stick, he fell silent again. It's not that he can't even take out 800 coins, but he also knows that it is unlikely that a few sticks of incense will allow him to successfully enter tranquility, and he may have to try repeatedly, and this may be a bottomless pit. Seeing that the atmosphere was set off, Zhao Chen immediately said that he could provide the other party with a large amount of calming incense, but in return, Brother Chen needed to be his eyeliner and help him pay attention to the unusual things that might happen in Bingquan Town in the future. As for where Zhao Chen got so many calming incense, naturally, he bought the goods from the master and then put them on the account of the original owner's father. For such reasonable cultivation supplies, it is natural to just rely on face recognition. Since Zhao Chen's request was not troublesome and there was no danger on the surface, Chen Zhu really could not withstand the temptation and was successfully bribed. After I collect the information, how should I tell you? Chen Zhu asked at the end. Zhao Chen thought for a while and replied, I will send someone back to get it regularly, and you can hand it over to the other party when the time comes. Having said that, Zhao Chen actually didn't want to use others. Anyway, Human is more than 400 miles away from Bingquan Town. With his Godspeed cursed speed of 800 miles a day, he can make a round trip in one day. Then he will disguise his identity to meet Brother Chen. After having enough wine and food, and Senior Brother Chen also left with a satisfied sedative incense, Zhao Chen frowned and thought to himself, just now after completing this transaction with Senior Brother Chen Zhu, it seems that the efficiency of the operation of the true key has increased a little. Is it an illusion? The next day, in the town guard's mansion, the town guardly who personally held a banquet for the master Huang Xianjun to practice. The prominent figures of Bingquan Town, Chijin Town, and Jinwen Township all came, and even the newly promoted acting head constable participated. Only the leader of the Sand Snake gang, Yi Liwen, was missing. The yellow-robed gunner Jia Xingming, who defeated Master Huang, attended the banquet on his behalf. However, no one else suspected anything. After all, Yi Liwen and Huang Xianjun had a grudge, and the latter was forced to leave the Chijin area this time. It would be difficult to deal with him if he came. However, Zhao Chen, who was toasting behind his master, accidentally heard someone say that Yi Liwen was not in the town at the moment and seemed to be out on business. After passing the table belonging to the Sand Snake gang, Zhao Chen followed Huang Xianjun and senior brother Feng to the Zhao family's table. After a few days, he met the original owner's parents again. Stepmother Li Zhiling wore a 1,000-petal chrysanthemum patterned top, a moon-white pleated ruai moon skirt, and a golden fork on her head. Dozens of golden threads hung down from the golden fork, adding a bit of mature temperament, but as long as you look at her face, she still looks like a girl. She sat with Zhao Song next to her, not like a couple, but like a father and daughter. Although in terms of age, they are about the same. After the toast, Zhao Chen did not continue to follow the master, but stayed at the table of the original owner's parents, and he also met the original owner's sister and brother for the first time. Because his younger brother Zhao Min was only a few months old, he was only held by the wet nurse and let Zhao Chen take a look, and then he was sent to the back hall to be cherished by Li Zhiling's biological mother. The younger sister Zhao Zi is already over 3 years old, and is very pretty. At this moment, she is bowing to Zhao Chen like a little adult and saying, "Hello, second brother." Zhao Chen touched her head and asked with a smile, "Has Zia been obedient recently?" Zhao Zi raised her head and said in a baby voice, "Of course Zia is obedient. I just haven't seen my father and second brother for a long time, and I miss them very much." Hearing this, Zhao Chen was slightly stunned and looked at Zhao Song in some surprise. It's normal for the younger sister not to see him, but not to see Zhao Song. In the original owner's memory, his father loved this daughter very much and would personally coax her to sleep every day. Chapter 40, Farewell. Seeing his son looking at him, Zhao Song said calmly, "There are too many things to deal with recently, and I really haven't been able to take care of Zia's feelings." Having said that, he ignored his wife's scrutinizing eyes, but picked up his daughter apologetically until he made her smile, then turned to Zhao Chen again and said, "You will set off for Human County tomorrow. Take care of yourself alone. If there is anything you don't understand, please ask your master." Mr. Huang is an old man. Even if he doesn't know much about business, he is experienced in other aspects. In addition, I have sent Manager Lin and your uncles in to assist you to jointly manage the trade route to Dunhuang in cooperation with your master. Well, Manager Lin is already in Human, helping you pace the way. Your Uncle Zhen will accompany you with a musket team, protecting your safety, while also being responsible for escorting the first batch of Bingquan wine for trial use. This batch of wine is also your initial capital. How much you can earn depends on your ability. If you want to get wine from Bingquan later, you have to follow the normal process. Shopkeeper Lin's name is Lin Ruxiang. She is the confidant hired by the original owner's biological mother to manage the dowry. Although she is a woman, she is a good business hand. The so-called Uncle Zhen is Zhao Zhan, the distant cousin of the original owner's father, Zhao Song. The two have a very good relationship and are as grateful as brothers. Zhao Chen has obtained most of the original owner's memories in the past few nights, so the basic information of these two people immediately flashed through his mind, and he thought the dowry of the original owner's mother was assigned by Zhao Song to the name of the eldest brother who was studying in Shanghai, the provincial capital, and the original owner's eldest brother had his own trusted people to manage these industries. So shopkeeper Lin was actually in an unemployed state, and it was reasonable for her to be transferred to me. As for Uncle Zhan, did my father transfer such an important subordinate and an entire musket team to me in order to squeeze out the master in the future and monopolize that trade route? Or does he have other calculations? TSK, the original owner's elder brother, me, and Zhao Zhan, Zhao Song's brother who had a life or death relationship, were all arranged to leave Bingquan one after another. People who don't know the inside story might really think that Li, who gave birth to a son, is playing tricks, right? Of course, this point cannot be ruled out. However, based on my observations these days, it doesn't seem like it. Well, I'll ask Brother Chen to pay more attention to the Zhao family's movements. Unfortunately, I don't have many trustworthy people in the Zhao family. Zhao Chen's thoughts raced, and he replied politely, "Thank you for your concern, Father. I know. Forget it. I won't nag too much. When I was your age, I had already started to venture into the world. The conditions you have now are much better than I did." After Zhao Song sighed, he winked at his wife beside him. Li Ziying immediately understood, took out a brocade bag from his pocket, and handed it to Zhao Chen, saying with a smile, "There is a silver note of 100 strings of cash, and loose coins of ZHIB and Ankian with a total value of 100 strings of cash. You can keep it, and use it as travel expenses." 200 strings of cash? Zhao Chen was a little surprised when he heard this. You know, this is not a small amount. Zhao Song's net profit from doing business for a year last year was only 500 strings of cash on the surface. Of course, this is only on the surface. He doesn't know about the business in secret. Anyway, the business that needs several fire gun teams to maintain is estimated to have a lot of profit. Therefore, Zhao Chen didn't bother to be polite with his cheap parents. He directly took the brocade bag and put it close to him. After that, the family seemed to be eating, drinking, chatting, and laughing happily, and appreciating the singing and dancing arranged by the garrison. It was not until the end of the banquet that Zhao Chen bid farewell to his parents and followed his master Huang Xianjun back to the martial arts hall. Zhao Song and his wife also did not go home and chose to stay overnight in the garrison mansion. Only the servant Feng Guo returned to the Zhao house to help his young master pack the clothes and personal belongings that he needed to take to Yumen. The next morning, Zhao Chen, holding the seemingly ordinary wind-cutting sword, practiced the Taiji Zuanman sword, the only key martial art recorded in the secret records of Qigang and the 12 doors of the Golden Tower and Jade Chamber, in the courtyard paved with white sand. His hands were divided into yin and yang, his body contained the 8 diagrams, his steps were on the 9 palaces, his internal ki and external form were combined. The sword light was fast and slow, hard, and soft. It was obvious that in less than a day, he had practiced this sword technique to the point where the form and ki were combined, and he had already glimpsed the door. This was because he had a strong soul and a meticulous control over his body and ki, so he could quickly master the sword technique. But he stopped here for the time being. If he wanted to go deeper, it would take more than a day or two. Okay. Just as Zhao Chen finished his training and stood still, he heard cheers from behind. He turned around and saw that senior brother Feng and master Huang Xianjun had already walked out of the main hall, looking at him with smiles. And the good just now was exactly what Feng Kang shouted. Junior brother, you have only been practicing martial arts for a few days? You have already practiced the essence of the Dairi Xingcha sword. Even the eldest senior brother, who was also a cultivator at the beginning, did not have such a speed. Feng Kang looked at Zhao Chen, who was standing with his sword put away, and could not help but sigh. He ranks third among Huang Xianjun's disciples, and there are 2 senior brothers above him, but they are not with Master Huang at the moment. As for the 2 senior brothers, Zhao Chen has heard about them these days, so he smiled and said, the eldest senior brother is practicing the Yuan Sects' unique skills, and the true energy he has cultivated does not work well with the Dairi Xingcha sword, so naturally it is not as convenient as me, my junior brother. Even so, I'm still far behind you. My senior brother Feng Kang sighed and looked at Master Huang beside him frequently. Huang Xianjun naturally understood his little thoughts and scolded, you little bastard, if you want to catch up with your junior brother's progress, then work hard on visualization, and rely on yourself to strengthen your soul power. What do you think I'm doing? I'm just thinking, do you have that kind of medicine that can assist in practice? Senior brother Feng said with a shameless face and a flattering smile. If my strength improves, I can do my best to share your worries, right? Improve soul power. There is a way. You can just find a demon to worship. Maybe it will be in a good mood and reward you. After a few sarcastic remarks, Master Huang scolded again. Don't think about working hard. Always want to take shortcuts. Is this the mentality that a practitioner should have? And if you don't lay a solid foundation for the external objects you rely on to enter the tranquility, it will be difficult for you to open your eyes in the future. After scolding brother Feng for a long time, Huang Xianjun nodded with satisfaction when he saw that he finally bowed his head to learn, and then asked Zhao Chen to go back and pack up their things. They were about to set off. Zhao Chen clasped his fists and accepted the order. After returning to his room, he only put away the 2 magic weapons, the toad light ribbon and the wind slashing sword, as well as the sparrow feather pistol and silver bills, and went out again. As for the rest of the things, Feng Wu would naturally help carry them. As Zhao Chen's servant, he would also follow to Human. When he arrived at the gate of the martial arts hall, Zhao Chen happened to see brother Feng climbing up the lintel with a ladder, carefully taking down the plaque of the martial arts hall and wrapping it with cloth. Master Huang Xianjun watched his apprentice's movements for a long time before taking a deep breath and saying to the dozen or so strong dress men behind him, let's go. Yes. The dozen or so strong dress men responded in unison and followed Huang Xianjun and Feng Kang to the city gate. Although Zhao Chen was a little surprised why they didn't ride horses, considering that the master was an old man and the original owner's father should have made arrangements, he didn't ask much and just followed his brother and bowed to the former martial arts disciples who came to see him off. Soon, the group arrived at the city gate, and a team of men carrying long pole muskets were gathering here, surrounding a number of carts full of goods. This was obviously the musket team and Bingquan wine that Zhao Song had assigned to Zhao Chen. Zhao Chen stepped out of the crowd and saluted the leader of the musket team, a man with a scar on his face, saying, Uncle Zan. The scarred man, Zhao Zan, the original owner's uncle, nodded slightly and put on a terrifying smile that could stop a child from crying at night and said, Zhao Chen, from now on, you are the leader of our team, just give the order. Zhao Chen glanced at the musket team wearing uniforms and looking disciplined, and he muttered in his heart, but on the surface he drew his sword, pointed in the direction of his master, and said, follow the team of Master Huang. As he gave the order, the 12-man team immediately took action. They were divided into groups of 3, one group led the way, 2 groups protected the flanks, and 1 group was the rear guard. The division of labor was clear and the orders were strictly enforced. TSK, such a musket team, seems to be stronger than the soldiers of the garrison I saw a few days ago. Is the original owner's cheap father really an ordinary township tycoon? Zhao Chen's heart became more and more confused, and he was ready to find Uncle Zan next to him to find out something when he had the chance. Huang Xianjun didn't care too much after seeing the state of the soldiers. He seemed to have known this would happen. He even nodded with satisfaction and praised such elites. Ordinary 9 apertures masters dare not look down on them. After all, the leader of the Sand Snake Gang, Yi Liwen, left Bingquan Town a few days ago. Huang Xianjun couldn't be sure whether the other party would ambush his group on the road. Although he still had some tricks, he needed to fight desperately. And now with such an elite fire gun team accompanying him, his safety was naturally guaranteed. Before leaving the city, Zhao Chen suddenly felt something in his heart. Looking back, he saw Zhao Zi, the original owner's sister, who was held in the arms of his stepmother Li, waving to him hard on the top floor of a restaurant near the town gate. Seeing this, even though Zhao Chen didn't regard them as family, his heart softened a little, and he also waved to his stepmother and sister as a farewell. In this way, after the two teams joined together, they walked about 2 miles and stopped in front of a pier next to the Ligang River. A wooden steamship about 20 meters long was docked on the water near the pier. It was not until then that Zhao Chen realized that his master was going to human by water. No wonder he did not prepare horses. At the same time, in a hidden basement in Bingquan Town, the fox in a black robe asked the tall figure at the top, "Master Tiger, Huang Xianjun has left Bingquan. When should we start?" "Tonight. Please read, collect, and vote for the monthly ticket." Chapter 41, Star Constellation Magical Power List. Bingquan is an old steam paddle steamer with a maximum speed of 28 miles per hour when traveling downstream. It has been in service on the Ligang River for hundreds of years. Even after several renovations, even though its main material is made of Yunzhao King Mu, which is known to be incorrupted for 1,000 years, it still cannot cover up the rotten smell on the hull. At this time, Zhao Chen, standing on the deck, was looking up at the chimney on the top of the cabin with white smoke, his eyes full of confusion. "What are you thinking about?" A voice came from behind, and Zhao Chen knew it was Brother Feng without turning around. But he still turned around to greet him, and then asked casually, "I'm wondering what the so-called steam engine burns, and why it produces such a great power." Although the original owner's memory also has related content about steam machinery, and even knows that there is a steam train leading to the Central Plains in Shanghai, the state capital, but it is completely unclear how it works. The original owner's energy in the past 10 years of life has been mainly spent on piano, chess, calligraphy and painting. I don't know why it generates power. After all, this kind of knowledge involving principles is poisonous and no one will teach it easily. But I do know what it burns. Senior Brother Feng responded with a smile. "What is it burning?" Zhao Chen asked curiously. "Anyway, it can't be coal. First, the color of the smoke is wrong. Second, the smoke coming out of the chimney is full of fragrance, so it's obvious that it can't be coal or something like that. Nowadays, the fuel for steam engines is charcoal made from a kind of wood called Nuan Yang wood. It is very resistant to burning, and the heat it generates is amazing. A piece of Nuan Yang wood the size of an arm is enough for this ice spring to go back and forth between the county city and the Chichen area." Perhaps because Zhao Chen's 5 immortal spiritual ki had not been completely restrained, Senior Brother Feng did not keep him in suspense, but explained everything he knew. This kind of wood was originally cultivated by the Flower God sect, one of the upper sects, and has been promoted to the entire Daxia in the past few hundred years. In areas like Ganzhou where the climate is not very suitable, there are many farmers who grow this kind of trees to sell for money. Of course, this is also because the court can supply red millet indefinitely, which makes farmers more inclined to grow some economic crops. Huashan sect is so generous? Zhao Chen was a little surprised at first, but then he thought of something and asked tentatively, "Huashan sect controls the seedlings of Nuan Yang wood. Isn't this natural? Only the seedlings provided by Huashan sect have the best burning effect of Nuan Yang wood. The ones that are privately grafted are more than 10 times worse." At this point, Feng Kang sighed. "My former neighbor didn't believe in it, and he cultivated it by himself. As a result, not only did the burning effect of the Nuan Yang wood he planted fail to meet the standards, but the entire land was destroyed, and no other crops could be grown for more than 10 years. Sure enough, Daxia has lasted for more than 8,000 years. Even if various concepts have developed slowly, that is only for ordinary people. The upper sects and aristocratic families have Shengsuan existences and can resist toxic knowledge to a certain extent. Forces will never lag behind. Thinking of this in his heart, Zhao Chen looked at the chimney on the ship again and said unintentionally, I read in a book before that steam engines eat coal. It turns out that they are fooling people. Haha, it's not fooling people. I heard from the master that steam engines did burn coal in the beginning. But since the first steam engine appeared to the world, nearly 3,000 years have passed, so as early as 1,000 years ago, coal mines in various places have been exhausted one after another. Senior brother Feng Kang laughed a few times, and then asked, why, junior brother, are you interested in machinery? It's just the first time I see it, I'm simply curious. Zhao Chen shook his head, and at the same time, felt desperate about the speed of technological innovation. It's okay to be curious, but don't go too deep into the essence, otherwise you may attract evil spirits. At this time, the voice of Master Huang Xianjun sounded beside the two of them. The research on these mechanical principles should be left to the masters of Xiangang Pavilion and Baekhyun. We just need to enjoy the convenience brought by their achievements. Hello, Master. Zhao Chen saw the master approaching and quickly bowed. Then he hesitated for a moment and asked again, Xiangang Pavilion and Baekhyun? Are they also upper sects? No, Xiangang Pavilion and Baekhyun are two independent institutions established by the Great Xia Court together with the masters of various upper sects and families who like to study the principles of heaven and earth. They specialize in the study of the academic field they named science, and steam engines, muskets and other things are just byproducts of these two institutions. In addition, it is said that after seeing the scientific achievements of our Great Xia, the Western countries also established a similar organization called the Steam School, which launched a westernization movement that lasted for more than 100 years and is now quite effective. Having said that, Huang Xianjun paused, glanced at his two disciples, and found that except for Zhao Chen, even Feng Kang was listening with great interest, so he shook his head and said, you two are very ignorant. It's okay in a remote place like Bingquan town, but once you enter the county town, you will probably be laughed at. It seems that the teacher has to make up for the courses in this area for you, lest you don't know the importance of the course, and provoke people you shouldn't provoke in human. Zhao Chen had already fallen into a daze when he heard his master talking about the so-called westernization movement in the West, but the other party's subsequent words made him come back to his senses immediately, and he was looking forward to Master Huang's popular science. After all, trying to understand this world as much as possible is also Zhao Chen's main task at present. Who would have thought that Master Huang Xianjun did not show off directly, but through two magazines to each of them? Zhao Chen looked at the two books in his hand, titled Ganzhou Chronicles, No 3112, and Human Renji List, February 8113 of the Great Xia calendar, and was stunned again. He suddenly realized that his understanding of the world was too one-sided, and the development levels of different places might be even more uneven than he thought. However, this kind of entertainment ranking can only be used as a reference. You can't completely believe what is written on it. You must have your own judgment. Master Huang saw that Feng Kang couldn't wait to open one of the books, so he reminded him. Entertainment. Master, the Daxia government doesn't have any official rankings or lists of cultivators? Zhao Chen asked tentatively. There is no heavenly list, earthly list, human list. All lists of latent dragons, young phoenixes, beauties, magic weapons, etc. According to the routine, shouldn't the Daxia court use something like this to provoke infighting among the Jianghu forces? Official ranking? Doesn't that create contradictions? Unless the Great Xia court is crazy, why would it do that? Aren't they afraid of the Dao lords changing the dynasty? Huang Xianjun looked at his apprentice strangely and was surprised by his idea. As for the official list, there is one, but it is not set up simply for fame and fortune, and only cultivators in the realm of magical powers are eligible to compete for a place on this list. So it is called the Starry Sky Magical Power List. At night, in the Bingquan Town Guard Mansion, with a howl that resounded through the night sky, a monster with a human face but a body like a giant jackal fell from the sky and landed in the backyard of the mansion, spitting out a black light from its mouth. In an instant, several patrolling soldiers were pierced through the chest by the black light before they could raise the muzzle of the musket and died. Just when the monster was about to break into the backyard and kill everyone inside, a skinny old man suddenly blocked it. Evil beast. Don't hurt anyone. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 42, Battle of the Tutelary Fort. The old man had white hair and beard, and was skinny, like an old osprey, but his eyes shone with a terrifying light, which made the wolf-like human-faced monster pause involuntarily. This man was the osprey old man Hulianchi, who was hired by the Li family to guard the offering, and had the strength of the 4th level of Tangsa and Gangsha realm. Speaking of which, just like the true key of the 1st level of Tangsa can be cultivated to open the acupoints without practicing to perfection, the mana of the 3rd level of Tangsa and the 4th level of Gangsha actually have no strict boundaries. Although in theory, the cultivators of the mana realm must first cultivate their mana and true essence to the level of the 9th revolution, and then condense Gangsha, and use the power of Gangsha to cultivate their lifelong magic. But in fact, there are very few cultivators who can gather gang and gather evil spirits after the 9th transformation of mana. Even in the upper sects and aristocratic families, only the core disciples will practice in this way. Most of the other cultivators will refine things that carry some gang or some evil spirit immediately after finding them, and condense the corresponding spell talisman of this gang and evil spirit to become their own life spell. Therefore, there are many cultivators who have life spells in the mana realm. For example, Yan Hangsha said before that it was because she got 100 refined gold with Earth Fire Evil Spirit that she finally cultivated the life spell of Chidi Yangyu and Sword Key. The reason for this is that it takes a very long time for the mana true essence to turn 9 times. Generally speaking, it takes about 30 years to succeed, and refining the corresponding gang evil can greatly speed up this progress. Moreover, it also takes a lot of time to gather gang and gather evil spirits after the 9th transformation of mana, which is far less convenient than directly looking for gang evil in the world. Secondly, although the mana realm monks who do not have their own life spells can also rely on rituals, spells and other means to cast spells, there are taboos and the preparation time is long. How can they compare with the life spells that are free and can be cast at will? For the monks who need to protect the way, it is self-evident what choice they will make. Thirdly, even if they rely on items containing Gangsha to cultivate life spells in advance, there will not be too many hidden dangers, and the impact on subsequent practice is even more minimal. Therefore, except for the real core disciples of the upper sect and the family, even the inner disciples and ordinary direct descendants of these top forces will start to travel the world in the mana stage to find the Ganki and Shaki they need. Back to the point, Osprey old man Hulianchi is already more than 100 years old, and his mana has naturally been 9 turns, and the look he just stared at the monster is one of his life spells, Purple Lightning Eagle Eyes. This is a Yang Gang spell, which is very good at shocking the mind, making the enemy feel fear and difficult to act. When Hulianchi was fighting against an enemy, his most common tactic was to use this pupil technique, to intimidate the enemy first, and then use the killing move. However, he miscalculated tonight. Just when the Osprey old man was about to use his other life spell Osprey God Cannon, while the monster was affected and stagnated, he saw the other party's face, which still had some human features, showing a sly smile of conspiracy. Not good. Hulianchi's heart trembled, and suddenly realized that the other party might have his intelligence, and prepared a means to deal with the Purple Lightning Eagle Eyes. But it was too late at this time. The 6 long tubes condensed by his magic power had begun to rotate and sprayed tongues of fire at the monster in the yard. Osprey God Cannon was developed by a Dangsuan level monk more than 100 years ago after observing a scientific weapon in the Xiangang Academy. Its power is huge and it can be called a nightmare for physical things. But the disadvantage is that it is not flexible enough. Once it is launched, it must at least finish 1 ammunition unit before it can stop. Pa 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 pa. The dense fire instantly submerged the monster, but did not hurt it at all. The shooting of this unit actually missed, and only plowed a deep trench on the ground. This is because the monster is just a remnant image, and its real body quietly came behind the Osprey old man and spit out a black sword light at the back of his heart. A transparent light shield suddenly rose on the surface of Hulianchi's body. Although he could not move when using his life spell Osprey God Cannon, he could use other spells to protect himself. Although this Xingcha spell Mermaid Bubble is a witchcraft from Taixi, it has a good defensive effect on sword energy. But he miscalculated again, because the black sword light completely ignored the existence of the mermaid bubble, went straight through its protection, and fell on Hulianchi's body. Even if Hulianchi used another spell to make thick fish scales grow on the surface of his body, he still couldn't block the black light, allowing it to easily pass through his chest. Sword light that restrains ocean related spells? Old Osprey Hulianchi looked down at his hollow chest and fell down unwillingly. Although he would not die for a while with the vitality of the Gangsha realm, he was no longer able to stop the monster in front of him. Guard, run. Hulianchi shouted this sentence with his last strength, and then completely lost consciousness. Lord Yazzie is a dragon species, and the Lianwei he bestowed naturally suppresses ocean-related spells. Otherwise, how can I be sure that a guy who has just received the Lianwei a few days ago can easily break through your protection? However, the one who deserves the most praise is the monkey lurking in the Guardian Mansion. If it weren't for his accurate intelligence, it wouldn't be so easy. The Tiger Master hiding in the dark smiled complacently, and then pulled the invisible rope in his hand, telling the monster transformed by the young man surnamed Mary to ignore Hulianchi and rush straight into the main room in the backyard. In an instant, the black sword light flashed, and a one-sided massacre began. More than a dozen maids and servants died on the spot, and a few guards protected the Zhenshao family and retreated to the fire gun team station in the mansion. But how could they evacuate faster than the jackal-like monster? They had just run a few dozen meters when they were caught up. The monster stared at the Zhenshao Li who was protected in the middle by the guards. Its eyes suddenly became larger, almost occupying half of its distorted face. Then it opened its bloody mouth that occupied the other half and spit out the black sword light. The sword light went straight to Li Hu, and several guards saw it and immediately blocked the Zhenshao in front of them. But it didn't work. After passing through them, the sword light still hit Li Hu. Fortunately, the Zhenshao himself also had the cultivation of Tangsa and second level Lion Kuro, and he had opened 7 orifices, so he was quite agile. He took advantage of the opportunity created by the guard's sacrifice and pounced to the side. He barely avoided the vitals at the critical moment, only to be pierced through his ribs. But even so, the town guard was already seriously injured. If the sword light came again, there would be no chance of survival. Just when the monster thought so, and his blood-red pupils were wide open and full of madness and excitement, a fiery red sword light flew at an extremely fast speed and pierced directly into the monster's back. The Red Emperor's Yangyuan sword key. Yan Hangsha? Exclamation mark. Hasn't she left Bingquan town? The tiger hiding in the dark was so surprised that he almost leaked his own breath. At the same time, Zhao Chen, who was lying in the cabin of the steamship Bingquan, had just put down Gan's Haofengan Chronicles and turned to Human Outstanding People list, and then he saw an acquaintance at first glance. Human Outstanding People list, number 16. The fragrance of silk socks condenses into green mist, and the golden hairpin turns into a sword and spits out red clouds. Red cloud sword Yan Hangsha. From the 7th rank Taoist official demon subduing deputy envoy, practicing Zhangai Li family's Red Emperor Yangyuan sword. Her face is like peach blossoms, and her mind is cunning. Additional updates will be added in the early morning tonight. Chapter 43 Full. Although the Human Renai list is only a magazine published in the county, it is more rigorous and authoritative than the Gan's Haofengan Chronicle that Zhao Chen just put down. After all, it ranks the monks who are active in Human County under the age of 60 and have at least the mana realm. As for why it is under 60, that is because, even if it is a monk, if he cannot achieve Dangsan, his spirit will inevitably decline after the age of 60. It will only become more and more difficult to get promoted. This selection standard is much more serious than the Gan's Haofengan Chronicle, which is purely for entertainment and can even be read for money. As the youngest mana monk in the county, Yan Hangsha was naturally ranked at the end of the Renai list, that is, the 16th place. Although that sister Xingcha is indeed quite calculating, it is really not giving her face to describe her directly as cunning. Well, the people who ranked this list either have a grudge against her or have opinions about the court hawks, right? After muttering a few words in his mind, Zhao Chen read the relevant introduction of Yan Xingcha. Yan Hongxia's father is an 8th rank Taoist official, and her mother is from the side branch of the Zhang family. At the age of 14, he successfully built a foundation and obtained the Red Emperor Yang Yuan sword, one of the 5 emperors' true sword out of the Li family, and cultivated the Red Emperor Yang Yuan true key. At the age of 15, he opened 4 orifices and assisted his uncle Desert Eagle Yansan in killing the horse bandit leader Poison Bee Needle who are Yang to avenge his father. At the age of 16, he opened 6 orifices, and his true key opened up the 12 meridians. He became a Taoist official and initially served as a deputy envoy for killing evils. At the age of 17, he opened 7 orifices, and his inner world was initially formed. The Ren and Du meridians were connected. He single-handedly captured and killed the heart-eating thief who fled from Shan's Superhuman, and was promoted to the 9th rank evil-slaying envoy for his merits. At the age of 18, all 9 orifices were opened, and the true key was perfect. He fought for 3 hours with the leader of the evil organization who came to seek revenge, and both sides were injured. At the age of 20, he built a spiritual platform and a bridge between heaven and earth to draw the vital energy into his body and cultivate magic power. Because of his cultivation, he was promoted to the 7th rank demon subduing deputy envoy. Because of the quality of the true key, once it enters the mana, it will reach the 3rd level and can cultivate 3 yang gangs, 3 yin chas, a total of 6 life spells. Currently, it is known that there are Red Emperor Yang Yuan Sword Key and Bi Wu Yun Shan Dun. There should also be the Zhaoguang net used to trap monsters in the Seeking Breath technique bought from the market. But even so, the record is too detailed, right? Making other people's privacy public like this, aren't you really afraid that the masters on the list of heroes will come to your door? Is there a big force behind this human list of heroes? While Zhao Chen was puzzled, he turned to the next page and found that the 15th place was also a female hero. It was written on it, Human List of Heroes, number 15. Bright eyes eliminate delusions, wise eyes cut off false words breaking delusion eyes Gong Yun, 30 years old. Hate evil as an enemy, fair and strict. Ranked 5th among the 7 heroes of the South Desert, with a 3rd level of mana. That's all? Zhao Chen flipped to the back and found that it was already the 14th place and the introduction of the 14th place was just like the 15th place female hero Gong Yun, quite concise. I understand. The person who made this list is clearly targeting Yan Hongxia her enemies? Shaking his head, Zhao Chen continued to read the following content and found that most of the people on the list were from the Li family or people related to the Li family. Only a few people had nothing to do with the Li family. Among them were the 2 brothers Ma Guangming, the great hero's sun sword, and Ma Guangliang, the 2nd hero a bright moon shining over Dunhuang, from among the 7 heroes of the southern desert. Looking at the ages of Ma Guangming and Ma Guangliang, who were 48 and 46 years old respectively, and the cultivation level of the 8th turn of magic power, Zhao Chen pinched his chin and thought. In other words, among the so-called 7 heroes of the southern desert, only the great hero, the 2nd hero and the 5th hero Gong Yun have the cultivation level of magic power. And the rest are still at the level of true key and refining orifices. However, low cultivation does not necessarily mean poor combat power. Yan Hongxia once said that, although her uncle Yan Xingcha was only a 9 orifice master, he could not win the opponent before he cultivated the Red Emperor Yang Yuan sword key. Because he had just come to this world and encountered Yan Xingcha's registered disciple competing with his master, Zhao Chen was quite concerned about the so-called 7 heroes of Emonan and paid close attention to their information. I wonder when I can have a similar name. After a long time, Zhao Chen closed the human outstanding people list, turned around and pushed open the door of the cabin, walked to the deck, then leaned on the railing, and looked casually at the brightly lit Jinjia County not far away. Bingquan Town is more than 400 miles away from Human County. At the speed of 28 miles per hour of the Bingquan downstream, it takes more than 10 hours to arrive. but they boarded the ship at noon, so they had to enter the Jinjia County wharf before dark and spend the night here. Because the saying "you will always encounter ghosts if you walk too much at night" is not a simple proverb in Daksha, but a real thing that may happen. And sometimes what you encounter is not just ghosts, but geysers. Therefore, unless necessary, people in Daksha will hardly travel after dark. No matter whether they are trains or ships, they will stop operating. Even if they sleep in the wild, it is safer than taking the risk of traveling a short distance to stay overnight. However, such danger is limited to the act of hurrying on the road. There is no big problem with night activities in towns and villages. This strange situation instantly reminded Zhao Chen of the Godspeed spell he got after receiving the ordinary on as a traveling merchant. Its taboo is that it cannot be used at night, otherwise it will be taken into an unknown space by the paper horse. In other words, other people traveling at night may only trigger a certain taboo, but if I use the Godspeed spell to travel at night, I will definitely encounter it. What is the source of this strange rule? Is it related to the Big Sun Star Raft? When Zhao Chen was thinking about it, he suddenly saw a ray of light falling from the sky and landing in an area on the west side of the county. Its speed was not too fast, but it was very concealed under the cover of night. If Zhao Chen's sight had not stayed on that sky, he would not have been able to find it at all. What fell? Looking at the speed, it doesn't look like a meteorite. Zhao Chen narrowed his eyes slightly, and his adventure spirit was ready to move, wanting to check it out. Well, there is no danger, and the master did not explicitly say that it is not allowed to get off the ship. Even the team led by uncles and took turns to go to the county town for drinks and meals. He quickly convinced himself, and then returned to his cabin in public, then picked up the Zenfeng sword and the quelling pistol, and then activated the effect of Chan Guang, quietly slipped off the ship, and entered Jinjia County. It is called a county town, but in terms of scale and population, it is actually not as large as Bingquan Town. In fact, the size of the urban area is only 1/4 of Bingquan Town. Only the night market is relatively lively. But the night market is on the east side of the county town, and Zhao Chen, who came to treasure hunting, naturally did not go there. Under the cover of Chan Guang, he walked through the streets and alleys, and came to an area where the houses were generally dilapidated, and the point where the light just fell should be nearby. Just when Zhao Chen was about to search, he suddenly heard an excited voice coming from the yard next to him. "Boss, there is a woman here. Oh my god, she's such a beautiful woman." "Pa. Boss, why are you hitting me? Didn't you see she's wearing a work uniform? She's an official." "So what if she's an official? Once she takes off this outfit, won't we be at her mercy? And she fell from the sky. She's the woman God gave us." Zhao Chen didn't want to meddle in other people's business, but when he heard the words "fell from the sky" and these people intended to bully an unconscious woman, he felt that he couldn't just let it go, otherwise it would be unreasonable. With this thought in mind, he kicked open the door of the yard next to him, and then saw 4 men looking back at him in astonishment, and in the middle of them, a pale woman was leaning against the wall of the well with her eyes closed, as if she was sleeping. Yan Hangsha? There will be another chapter in the early morning. Chapter 44, a plan full of loopholes. The beautiful woman who was leaning against the well bed and sleeping soundly was Yan Hangsha, the 16th on the human outstanding list in the 3rd level of mana. In other words, the treasure that just fell from the sky was my sister Hangsha. In addition to the speed limit, was her Biwu Yunshandun also restricted? And the place where she fell happened to be near me. Isn't it too coincidental? I have such a fate with her. After muttering a few words in his heart, Zhao Chen's eyes moved away from Yan Hangsha and fell on the 4 men who were not good people at first glance. There were traces of body training, but because of excessive drinking and sex, their bodies had long been depleted. Only the man in the lead was better, but he was far inferior to senior brother Sun who had fought with me. Zhao Chen's spiritual perception reflected the area of 10 feet around him, so he easily figured out the details of the 4 people in front of him, and then took the initiative to attack. Because the kicking action was very violent, the effect of the toad light had disappeared. The 4 men also saw the boy who walked into the courtyard. A man with a face full of flesh was about to step forward to ask questions, but he was knocked to the ground before he could open his mouth. Seeing this, the other 3 made completely different choices. Two of them drew their daggers and attacked Zhao Chen from the left and right. The leading man had better eyesight and obviously saw that the boy who kicked the door was not an ordinary person, so he rushed straight to Yan Hongxia, who was sitting by the well bed, wanting to take her hostage. Zhao Chen naturally discovered the intention of the leading man, so after easily dodging the attack, the 5 immortal spiritual key was running on its own, and he wanted to use the special of this true key to affect the man's spirit and make him give up his hostility in a short time. But at this moment, something strange happened. A red sword light rose from Yan Hongxia's head and then passed through the bodies of the 4 men in succession, burning them into powder in an instant, and then rushed towards Zhao Chen again. Fuck. Just when Zhao Chen was so scared that he almost summoned Wang Dao, i.e., the red sword light stopped by itself after sensing the breath of 5 immortal spiritual key and turned into a golden hairpin, falling into his palm. The fragrance of silk stockings condenses into green mist, and the golden hairpin turns into a sword and spits out red clouds. Is this Yan Hongxia's magic weapon? Did she set the automatics off defense mode before she fell into a coma? Well, the secret record of key exercise in the 12 doors of the Golden Building and Jade Chamber in the Li family's 5 emperors' true sword art have the same origin, both of which come from the Xianyang city lineage of the ancient Kunlun school. And the 5 immortal spiritual key that I have cultivated is obviously more Teichu true meaning. So this golden hairpin magic weapon took the initiative to surrender? Zhao Chen looked at the golden hairpin in his hand and suddenly realized something in his heart. Yan Hongxia's body finally fell near me after encountering danger, and perhaps this was also the reason. Bingquan Town, in a remote room in the town guard's mansion. Several people in black robes gathered quietly around a table, all silent, and the atmosphere was very depressing. After a long while, a man wearing a monkey mask spoke. After killing the descendants blessed by Lord Yazi, Yan Hongxia actually escaped in the middle of the night. It is obvious that she discovered something, and the guard was only injured, not dead. Lord Tiger, what should we do next? Tiger was also panicking at this time. The power of Yan Hongxia's sword just now really shocked him. The Red Emperor Yang Yuan sword is worthy of being the unique skill of a prestigious family. He thought to himself that, if he was hit by such a sword, he would not be much better than the monster transformed by the young man surnamed Mei. At most, he would not be killed instantly. If Yan Hongxia had not been seriously injured and had not recovered, she would never run away. But although he was panicking, Tiger did not show it. Instead, he looked confident. While thinking quickly, he smiled and said, "In fact, this result is better than killing the guard. After all, if Li Hu was only injured, it would not attract the investigation of the Li family. Moreover, Meinan, the culprit, is dead, and he does not need to ask the family for help, right? As for Yan Hongxia, she is carrying the heart disease dagger of the Xingyang temple, and I have used some tricks on her. If she goes out so late at night, she will probably encounter a ghost before she can reach the county city. Although her magic is powerful, it is not a magic power after all. It is not so easy to escape from the ghost domain." The more he spoke, the more it made sense to him. In the end, he actually felt that his impromptu decision was so forward-looking, and his subordinates immediately flattered him. It turns out that Lord Tiger already had a plan. We really worried in vain. Lord Tiger has a plan for everything. He is the pillar of our 4 evil hall. Only Snake carefully sang a different tune, but if Yan Hongxia doesn't show up for a long time, the county town will definitely send people to Bingquan Town. By then, once they find out that Yan Hongxia risked her life to escape in the middle of the night, they will definitely be suspicious. Tiger was not angry at what Snake said. He just smiled and said, Yan Hongxia did not show up when she swung the sword. The only ones who can tell that it was her who did it, and Yan Hongxia had already claimed to have returned to the county town 3 days ago. So, as long as the town guard doesn't say it, who would know that it was she who killed the monster? If the people from the Dao government want to investigate, they should go to the county town or other towns along the way. Snake was moved and asked in surprise, "You mean to control Li Zhenxiao as well?" Tiger laughed and said, "Without the old man Osprey, what is Li Hu? He will naturally be at our mercy. Of course, we don't need to control him deeply. Anyway, he has been injured, and it is very reasonable for him to stay at home. We just need to show up on a daily basis and authorize the government affairs to the monkey to handle. This is actually less risky than changing the garrison. Snake thought about it and didn't think there were any loopholes. Finally, he nodded and said, Lord Tiger is wise. However, Yan Hangsha is always a hidden danger. Well, I will track her down and check her situation at dawn. Having said that, the tiger turned to the fox who had been silent and asked in a deep voice, has the key not been found yet? Fox, who had been trying to reduce his presence, was instantly soaked with cold sweat and hurriedly explained, I have checked every item in the Zhao family that might be the key, but none of them are. At this point, Fox saw that Tiger's face was getting uglier and uglier and hurriedly changed his words. Do you think you should ask Lord Feng to do another divination? Humph, that foreign woman Feng may have left Bingquan town. You'd better not count on her anymore. Tiger snorted, not even thinking about the possibility that the woman was killed, and then said in a gloomy tone, I'll give you another month. If you still can't find it within a month, you know what the consequences will be. Yes, I will definitely find it within a month. Fox promised. In addition, tomorrow you ask Zhao Song to take Li to visit the garrison and leave Li in the garrison. In this way, you can also let go and search carefully. Tiger gave another order. Yes, Lord Tiger. The fox responded. For some reason, even though Li Zhiling was just an ordinary person, none of them suggested controlling the Li family as well. Add more to ask for collection, follow-up reading, and recommendation. Chapter 45, Strange Territory. In a shabby courtyard in Jinjia County, Zhao Chen played with the golden hairpin in his hand for a while, and then let it turn into a sword light and fly back to Yan Hangsha's hair. Glancing at the 4 piles of ashes on the ground that still had residual heat, Zhao Chen's mouth twitched, and at the same time he had a little yearning for the Li family's 5 emperors paying homage to the truth sword. This sword technique is also derived from the Kunlun Sects Xianyang city lineage. Although the master said that it has lost the true meaning of the 5 emperors paying homage to the truth great supernatural power, it is still a powerful method that directly points to the Dangxian level. And from the performance of Yan Hangsha's golden hairpin, it is also very consistent with my secret records of Kigan and the 12 layers of the Golden Tower and Jade Chamber. It should be easy to transfer to practice. I just don't know how to get it. Of course, it would be even better if I could get the original of the 5 emperors paying homage to the truth great supernatural power. After shaking his head and retracting his thoughts that had drifted away, Zhao Chen then activated the 5 immortal spiritual key to its full potential and carefully approached Yan Hangsha, who was leaning against the well bed. Zhao Chen breathed a sigh of relief only after he squatted down in front of her and did not trigger any other possible defense mechanisms. Then, he used his spiritual perception to carefully observe the Hangsha sword in front of him and found that she was breathing normally, her heartbeat was steady and strong, and her true energy and magic power were also running on its own. Except for her unconsciousness and slightly pale face that made her originally heroic look a little more weak, she was no different from usual. Sister Hangsha. Yan Hangsha? Wake up. Zhao Chen called out to Yan Hangsha a few times first, but there was still no movement, so he reached out his hand and pushed her a few times, even patted her cheek, but it still didn't work. Seeing this, Zhao Chen frowned, and after thinking for a moment, he pulled up Yan Hangsha's wrist again and continued to circulate his true energy, intending to explore the specific situation inside her body. Although Yan Hangsha had plotted against him, she had given him benefits first, and she still had a bottom line, and it was not particularly excessive. Even if he had thought about retaliating, he only intended to make her pay an equal price. What's more, she had helped him when he encountered the monster transformed by Fang Zuzi, and he shouldn't have left her alone for both emotional and logical reasons. However, when a ray of 5 immortal spiritual true ki entered Yan Hangsha's meridians, the mana and true energy in her body actually had an extremely strong reaction, and it accelerated its circulation on its own. Zhao Chen could even intuitively feel the active enthusiasm of the opponent's magic power. It was like a sales to welcome a distinguished guest. It surrounded the wisp of 5 immortal spiritual ki and ran it along the Red Emperor's Yangyuan sword ki for a cycle, and then reluctantly sent it back to Zhao Chen's body. Zhao Chen let go of Yan Hongxia's wrist, and his face became strange. Because the exploration just now made his true ki stronger, even equivalent to 3 or 4 days of normal work. What's this? I collected Sister Hongxia? The key is that I didn't want to collect at all. It was the opponent's magic power that sent it by itself. The primordial true meaning in my true ki is what the opponent's magic power lacks and desires? That's why it's so enthusiastic? Well, if Yan Hongxia is awake, the true ki under her control may not show this characteristic, but it is the current completely instinctive state that will be like this. But this is exactly her problem now. The spirit platform has no owner. The spirit platform is the residence of the cultivator's soul and the source of magic power. After the refinement of the orifice is complete, only by building the spirit platform, building the heaven and earth bridge, and drawing the vitality of heaven and earth into the body, can magic power be cultivated. Although Zhao Chen has not yet condensed the 3 souls to build the spirit platform, this does not prevent him from discovering the abnormality in the other party's spirit platform under the enthusiastic hospitality of Yan Hongxia's magic power. What happened to her soul? Alas, my knowledge is still too shallow. I have no clue at all. Let's take her back to the master to have a look. He is knowledgeable and should be able to find the problem. After a little thought, Zhao Chen did not waste any more time, leaned down to let Yan Hongxia lean on his back, then hooked her legs with both hands and carried her on his back. I can't see it at ordinary times, but I didn't expect that my sister Hongxia is quite attractive. Zhao Chen muttered softly when he noticed the soft touch from his back, and then activated the effect of toad light again. Running on the street with a girl on his back, even at night, is too conspicuous and easy to cause trouble. After walking through the streets and alleys, Zhao Chen boarded the deck of the ice spring parked at the dock in just 10 minutes, and then returned to his cabin. After putting Yan Hongxia on the bed, Zhao Chen left the room again, went to the other side of the corridor, and knocked on the door of his master's cabin. A moment later, when Huang Xianjun saw Yan Hongxia lying on Zhao Chen's bed, he immediately showed a strange smile and jokingly said, "You guys are in trouble. Are you looking for me to clean up the mess?" "Master, business is more important. Stop joking," Zhao Chen said helplessly. He didn't believe that Huang Xianjun couldn't see that Yan Hongxia was not in a good state. After all, although the golden dart had lost his magic power and his spiritual perception could not leave his body, the magic brought by the opening of his mind would not completely disappear. Huang Xianjun was not completely joking, but as soon as he entered the door, he keenly noticed that Yan Hongxia had the aura of his apprentice, so he asked tentatively. The two had just dual cultivation, their true ki and true essence, so they naturally carried each other's aura. Seeing that Yan Hongxia's condition was indeed not normal, Huang Guanzu also restrained his smile and sat down to feel her pulse. Soon, his eyebrows were tightly knitted. "Master, how is it?" Zhao Chen asked immediately when Huang Xianjun withdrew his fingers. "It's very troublesome. Her soul is lost," Huang Guanzu said with a serious face. "The soul is lost. Where is it lost?" Zhao Chen asked in confusion. "Tell me in detail how you met her." Huang Xianjun stroked his beard and asked instead of answering. "Yes," Zhao Chen responded, then organized the sentence, and then carefully recounted the process of seeing a faint light falling and going to check it out. Except for the toad light and the subsequent collection. No, it should be called dual cultivation. The rest was not omitted. So it seems that Hongxia girl encountered a strange domain while traveling at night, and it was a strange domain that trapped souls. How could that girl be so reckless? This is troublesome. Huang Xianjun sighed, with some regret in his tone. Strange domain? Exclamation mark. Although he had heard relevant information from Miss Qi, and had indirectly seen the unformed strange domain in the mirror world, Zhao Chen still pretended to be confused and asked, "Master, what is a strange domain?" A strange domain is a distorted area of rules formed after a demon called Strange descends some of its power on an object or a creature. The strange domain in reality is easy to deal with. Even if the area formed is large, there are Dangsuan and Shengsuan masters to destroy it. But some strange domains in different spaces are very troublesome. It's okay when there is sunlight shining during the day, but at night, their entrances may be open anywhere, and they especially like to open on the road that people who travel at night must pass. This is also one of the sources of danger in my great desire at night. Since Xingcha fell from the sky, it means that the entrance to the weird domain is now in the clouds above Jinjia County. Huang Xianjun explained briefly, but did not go into too much detail, so as not to involve his apprentice with the weird in terms of fate. Then how can we save her? Zhao Chen looked at the clouds in the sky through the window of the cabin. He didn't know if it was a psychological effect, but he always felt that there was something there. Unless the master of divine power passes by now, she can only rely on herself to save herself. Weirdness is often not very intelligent. Although the rules it sets have many traps, there are also many loopholes. If Xingcha can find a loophole, she may still be able to escape from the strange domain. But she only has 7 days at most. After her soul leaves her body for 7 days, it can never come back. As for asking an expert to rescue her, I'm afraid it will be too late. After all, the entrance to the strange domain is only here tonight, and I don't know where it will go tomorrow. Huang Xianjun sighed again and concluded, in short, she can only rely on herself now. A passing master of magical powers? I do have one. But what price can you pay for me to take the risk? Zhao Chen looked at Xingcha thoughtfully and thought so. Chapter 46 collects some interest first. If it was just a small favor, then it wouldn't matter if he helped out, but the strange domain was obviously extremely dangerous. Even if Zhao Chen didn't go in to rescue Xingcha himself, he would still have to bear the expense of summoning fear one Dairi. This was a big burden for him, who didn't have much star coins. Besides, I'm a traveling merchant now. Can I still be called a merchant if I don't pursue profits? If you want me to save her, Xingcha must offer a price that makes me excited. After all, although I call her sister, we are actually just casual acquaintances, and I even have some grievances with her unilaterally. As his thoughts turned, Zhao Chen asked his master indirectly how the supernatural cultivators would solve the problem of the strange domain, and only then did he have a preliminary plan. Huang Xianjun didn't think much about it, and just thought that Zhao Chen was a young man who admired AI, and he was unwilling to see the person he loved approaching death step by step, while he could only wait here for a miracle to happen. In this regard, the old hall master sighed, then patted Zhao Chen's shoulder heavily to show comfort, and then quietly left the apprentice's cabin. Master, what on earth are you thinking about? Are you going to leave the remaining time to us two young people? After Zhao Chen complained a few words in his heart, he didn't explain anything. After all, being misunderstood like this didn't cause him any loss, and it even provided some convenience. Zhao Chen sat down beside the bed, grabbed Xingcha's hand, and then entered into meditation. The next moment, he entered the palace shrouded in mist again, and sat on a tall chair formed by 6 golden dragons. He casually opened the jade book, and saw Xingcha's name in the items for sale column. However, her condition was similar to that of Jane Lana Phoenix, a descendant of the Phoenix family, who was called Phoenix when she was enveloped by the Kamikaze soul-slaying sword formation a few days ago. She was in a situation where her body was under her control, but the ownership was unclear. In other words, she couldn't sell it directly. When I forced the sale of that phoenix a few days ago, I had a brief exchange with its soul through the Great Sun Star Chariot, but it was rejected. I didn't think much about it at the time, but just now I suddenly realized that maybe I can use this function to talk to Xingcha who is trapped in the strange domain, or even conduct a transaction. If she can accept my conditions, then why not let Wang Daoyi try to break through the strange domain and rescue her? Even if Wang Daoyi fails, it doesn't matter. I can just sell Xingcha to Xingcha and save enough money to redeem her. It won't be considered breaking my promise. But the prerequisite is that I can indeed contact her and she can accept my conditions. Whether you can be saved depends on your luck, Sister Xingcha. Thinking of this, Zhao Chen's finger pointed to Xingcha's name in the list. Xingcha was running on a road with no end in sight, completely ignoring the various shouts on both sides of the road, and only looked up from time to time at the clock hanging in the air. Suddenly, the long hand of the clock pointed to 4 o'clock. Xingcha, who had caught a glimpse of this scene, did not hesitate to rush to the right side of the road, and there happened to be a door opened there, revealing a 5-foot square room inside. Yan Hongxue curled up her body after entering the room. At the moment the door closed, she saw countless vengeful spirits on the road. They howled and rushed towards her, but were blocked outside the door. Even though she escaped successfully, Yan Hongxue did not show any joy. After simply measuring the length, width and height of the room, she thought to herself, the safe house is getting smaller and smaller. This will happen at most 2 or 3 times. If I want to come in again, I will have to hurt myself. Maybe this is the purpose of the weird. It wants to watch me use all means to survive and enjoy it, and I still can't find the way out of this strange domain. Damn it. I shouldn't have killed that vengeful spirit in the first place, otherwise I wouldn't have been punished and lost all my strength. Maybe the moment I chose to attack, my way out was cut off. Just when Yan Hongxue was feeling depressed and even desperate, a solemn and grand voice came to her ears. Are you willing to dedicate your ownership to the great Lord of the Star Chariot? Who is it? Yan Hongxue was startled when she heard the voice. While asking, her mind was working quickly. According to the information from the Taoist office, although the rules in the strange domain are distorted and terrible, they are very rigid and generally will not change unless some mechanism is triggered. And I didn't do anything just now, so it shouldn't trigger any changes. Then where did this voice come from? Lord of the Star Chariot. This name sounds like the style of All Stars Association. When Yan Hongxue was thinking about it, the voice appeared again. After repeating the previous question, it added a sentence at the end. Dedicate everything you have to the great Lord of the Star Chariot for 10 years, in exchange for your chance to escape from this strange domain. Dedicate yourself to the Lord of the Star Chariot for 10 years in exchange for a chance to leave this damn place. Yan Hongxue's heart was moved in an instant. She was a person who was good at calculating. Between being doomed to death and becoming a lackey of an evil god for 10 years, she would undoubtedly choose the latter. Because she was still young, she didn't want to die. Moreover, that voice was solemn and dignified, without the slightest breath of madness. It might not be unacceptable to surrender to him. I heard that the All Stars Society was not originally an evil organization, but it became a lackey of evil after the top leaders were polluted. Maybe this Lord of the Star Chariot is one of the few fundamentalist factions in the All Stars Society? What's more, I don't know why, I just feel that the words of that voice are extremely convincing, as if the other party is the incarnation of the avenue that I have been pursuing. Yan Hongxue's mind was full of thoughts. When she couldn't make a decision for a long time, the voice sounded for the 3rd time. After repeating the conditions just now, it slowly said, this is the last inquiry. If you don't answer, it will be regarded as giving up. Hearing this, Yan Hongxue's eyes flashed, and she finally made a decision. She took a deep breath, endured shame, fear, hesitation and many other emotions, and said loudly and resolutely, I, Yan Hongxue, am willing to dedicate my ownership to the great Lord of the Star Chariot for 10 years, and from now on I will obey your orders, and will not refuse, even if it means death. Not long after she finished speaking, she suddenly noticed a violent wind roaring in the strange domain. She was also swept up by the wind, and then her eyes went dark, and she lost consciousness. When Yan Hongxue made the decision, in the cabin of the Binquin, Zhao Chen, who was sitting on the bed, also opened his eyes. He smiled and looked at the still unconscious sister Hongxue and thought to himself, let you have a taste of making a decision under duress. I have done what I said. However, this matter is obviously more beneficial to you. I feel a little bit at a disadvantage. Thinking of this, Zhao Chen exchanged for Wang Daoyi and once again transferred his true energy into Yan Hongxue's body, starting a new round of dual cultivation. Collect some interest first. Chapter 47 Behind the Scenes. It turns out that the supernatural power cultivators can only use the little law power contained in their own supernatural powers to destroy the rules in the weird domain, or magnify the loopholes in those rules, and cannot directly destroy the weird carrier at its core. That is, the weird is mostly attached to dead objects or beasts with little wisdom. They are inflexible and act only on instinct. Otherwise, even the supernatural power cultivators are likely to fall into it, instead of being able to easily save people like now. From this, it can be seen how terrible the Weirdanging village, which is based on the earth god, will be once it takes shape. Fortunately, he has been sealed by the sealing demon Red Pen. Feeling the whole process of Wang Daoyi breaking through the weird domain and rolling out Yan Hongxi's soul, Zhao Chen, who was collecting interest, couldn't help but sigh a few words in his heart. Of course, it was said to be collecting interest, but Zhao Chen didn't actually ask too much. After all, this double cultivation was more to observe the situation in Yan Hongxi's spiritual platform, and using the other party's mana and true essence to strengthen his 5 immortal spiritual ki was only secondary. I'm back. Zhao Chen also breathed a sigh of relief when he felt the surging soul power suddenly appearing in the other party's spiritual platform. However, when he ended the summoning of Wang Daoyi, he did not stop the operation of his own true energy in the body of Sister Hongxia. After all, since he was here, wouldn't it be a loss if he didn't circulate it for a week and then leave? Moreover, even if the soul returned, Yan Hongxia's mana and true essence's enthusiasm for the 5 immortal spiritual true ki did not diminish at all, so he couldn't spoil the fun, right? In addition, he was not afraid that Yan Hongxia would notice it after waking up, because the other party had handed over her ownership to him for 10 years under the notarization of Xingcha. In these 10 years, the Sister Hongxia in front of him was whatever he wanted for him, and he could not make any resistance, and even the idea of resistance could not arise. This is also a new function that Zhao Chen has explored from the application of Dairi Xingcha, the ability to notarize contracts. It cannot be used actively yet, but it can be passively triggered when the ownership of the goods is determined. Judging from the intelligence currently available, the Dairi Xingcha is likely to be a merchant ship that shuttles between the worlds. Since it is a merchant ship, it is normal for it to have the ability to notarize contracts. The reason why it cannot be used directly now is either because my rank is too low and my authority is insufficient, or because the relevant components involved in notarization are missing, resulting in incomplete functions. After half an hour, Zhao Chen, who had some guesses in his mind, finally ended his practice and took back his palm that was attached to Yan Hongxia. Feeling that his true energy had grown a lot again, Zhao Chen was very satisfied with the effect of collecting interest this time. He glanced at Yan Hongxia, who was lying quietly on the bed, and found that her face had gradually become ruddy, but there was still no sign of waking up. Zhao Chen frowned, and was slightly confused, because according to his exploration of his true energy in her body, Sister Hongxia was already full of energy at this time, and should have woken up long ago. With a thought, Zhao Chen's spirit entered the Dairi Xingcha again, and casually opened the Jade Book to check Yan Hongxia's status. Yan Hongxia, a 7th ranked Taoist official from Human County, Ganzhou, Daxia. Cultivation, 3 transformations of magic power. Main practice method, Red Emperor Yangyuan Sword Art. Secondary practice method, Sunlight Cloud Shadow Book. Possess 5 innate spells, respectively, Yang Gang spell, Red Emperor Yangyuan Sword Key, Cloud Feather Clothes, Yin Sha spell, Green Mist Cloud Sky Escape, Cloud Light Net, Seeking Breath spell. Other non-innate spells, Cleansing spell, Dust Avoidance spell, Water Fetching spell. It turns out that Sister Hongxia also has a Yang Gang spell called Cloud Feather Clothes. Judging from the style of the name, it should be the same as Green Mist Cloud Sky Escape and Cloud Light Net. They are all spells included in the secondary Sunlight Cloud Shadow Book. As for the cleaning spell, etc., they are not innate spells. Not only are they weak in power and the preparation procedures are cumbersome, but there are also taboos in their use. At most, they can be used to facilitate daily life, and don't even think about fighting. Other people's innate magic or fire guns have killed you several times, and you are still pinching your fingers, chanting incantations, and stepping on the ground. Just thinking about it, the scene is hilarious. Zhao Chen shook his head slightly, but his eyes gradually became solemn, because he saw in the item of Yan Hongxia's status, the soul is wrapped by a foreign power, which has created a barrier with the body. Current barrier. 90% foreign power. Where did the foreign power come from? Could it be that the weird has done something to Sister Hongxia's soul? Just when Wang Daoyi broke through the weird domain and rescued Yan Hongxia's soul, on the top of a hill more than 100 miles away from Jinjia County, a man who was meditating suddenly stood up. His cheeks were gaunt, his face was white and his lips were red, but his eyebrows were full of majesty. While pinching his fingers quickly, he looked in the direction of Jinjia County and thought to himself, it's this strange magic power again. Let me calculate his origin. A person from the ancient Tang dynasty? Heh, so absurd. It seems someone is deliberately covering it up. But it is certain that his magical power is only at the 7th level at most. Humph. A mere low-grade magic power dares to ruin my business again and again. After a cold snort, he stretched out his left hand, clenched it into a fist, and was about to swing it, but stopped at the last moment. I have a hunch that killing him will be disadvantageous to me. Well, what I'm planning now is a sin against heaven and earth. Although it will not incur heavenly punishment, human disasters are inevitable. The Zheng family girl who has traveled thousands of miles from the East China Sea to track here in Human County is one of them. This strange magic power may be the manifestation of another human disaster. Killing him will make this disaster even greater. Will the organization behind him intervene because of this? This shows that at this stage, this strange magic power and the organization behind it do not know of my existence. After thinking for a moment, the man retracted his fist and flicked his fingers, allowing a glimmer of light to instantly cross 100 miles and fall on Yan Hongxi's soul. This amount of power is enough to make that 7th ranked Taoist official sleep for 10 days. When she wakes up and reports, it will take at least half a month, or even a month, for the divine power to intervene. In that case, it will not delay the current layout of Bingquan Town, but can use her to promote the next plan. Thinking of this, the man sighed and said to himself silently, alas, it is so difficult to tell a perfect story and let a Dongsuan being believe this story and take the initiative to join the game without noticing it. Even if I start the layout again, I can't make a mistake at any step, otherwise my existence will be exposed and everything will be lost. After sighing, the man turned his eyes away from the direction of Jinjia County and looked at the two towns and one township in the Chijin area. In his field of vision, an invisible hand that was so huge that it covered the sky was now covering the sky above Bingquan Town, Chijin Town and Jinwan Township, with its 5 fingers slightly bent and closing at an almost imperceptible speed. In the Dairi crossing chariot, Zhao Chen stared at Yan Hongxi's status bar for a while and found that the estrangement caused by the alien power was gradually decreasing with the passage of time, so he was a little relieved. Although the speed of decrease was very slow, as long as there was enough time, it would return to zero sooner or later, and she would be able to wake up at that time. And from the initial situation of only 90%, maybe the double cultivation just now would also help to solve this estrangement. Well, let's try it later. After making up his mind, Zhao Chen cast his eyes on Yan Hongxi's standard recycling price and found that it was as high as 8,900 star coins, which was not much worse than Wang Daoye. But it was normal. After all, Wang Daoye was seriously injured and dying at the time, and he only had more than 10 minutes, while Yan Hongxi was only 20 years old and had a lot of life left. Although Zhao Chen had obtained Yan Hongxi's ownership, he could not be so crazy as to sell Sister Hongxi intact, but as her owner, he could split and sell the knowledge she possessed. This would not bring her any loss, just like when Zhao Chen sold the secret record of key circulation in the 12 doors of the Golden Tower and Jade Chamber. The secret record would not disappear in the first place. Chapter 48, Profiteer. The sword art of the Red Emperor's nourishing essence, a Gangsha technique. It is a copy of the Li family's Dongsuan level magical skill the 5 Emperor's sword art, with a recommended standard recycling price of 2,300 star coins. The Book of Clouds and Shadows records the cultivation methods of 3 Yang Gang spells and 3 Yin Sha spells. The original collection of Uniying Sects Taoist techniques. It is a copy of the Sects magical technique the Book of Clouds and Shadows. The recommended standard recycling price is 2,100 star coins. The cultivation method of the spell mix issue, with a recommended standard recycling price of 300 star coins. The 12 techniques including the cleaning technique, dust avoidance technique, and water retrieval technique have a total recycling price of 250 star coins. Plus some scattered other knowledge such as gunfighting technique, a total of only 5,000 star coins were sold. Looking at the balance of 5,710 star coins, Zhao Chen sighed and felt at ease again. One day he spent 5 seconds to rescue Yan Hangsha's soul before causing the star coin balance to drop to 3 digits. But after selling knowledge, Sister Hangsha's overall price has also dropped to 3,900 star coins. TSK, there really is no loophole to exploit. Although I didn't really plan to sell her. Shaking his head, Zhao Chen clicked his fingers again and turned the jade book to the product list page, and then he suddenly found that the Red Emperor Yang Yuan sword art that Xingcha had just recycled with 2,300 star coins was marked with a high price of 3,700, and the Sunlight Cloud Shadow book also reached 3,300. As for the Mixie technique, it doubled to 600 star coins. Although he had expected that the Dairi Xingcha would raise the price, Zhao Chen was still stunned by such shamelessness and called him a swindler in his heart. Xingcha seemed to have noticed his thoughts and gave a relatively reasonable explanation. The price increase was because it needed to perfectly extract the relevant knowledge from the target's memory, and it also had to bypass the prohibition and eliminate the cause and effect. I see. Seeing this explanation, Zhao Chen nodded thoughtfully, but he was not as surprised as before. Although Yan Hangsha's ownership was already his, he could sell the former's knowledge at will, but this did not mean that Zhao Chen himself owned the knowledge that Yan Hangsha possessed. It must have been extracted from Yan Hangsha's memory by Xingcha. When Yan Hangsha was passed on the Red Emperor Yang Yuan sword art from the Li family, she probably made a Taoist oath such as not to be passed on to others, and she was also likely to accept the corresponding restrictions to avoid leaking the skills when being subjected to the soul search secret technique. It was obviously a lot of effort for Xingcha to extract this knowledge without hurting her, so it's not too much to increase the price. In addition, this Sunlight Cloud Shadow book should be similar. It is probably from the collection of the Taoist official office. Although it may not be valued, it is also impossible to pass it on easily. But it's still too expensive. Zhao Chen sighed slightly and didn't plan to buy it for the time being. First of all, he has just opened up the 12 meridians and is in the stage of accumulating true energy to break through the Ren and Du meridians at the beginning of the 8 extraordinary meridians. He doesn't need subsequent skills yet. This barrier, if there is no spiritual valley, elixir and other resources to assist, generally requires 3 or 4 years of hard work to break through. But relying on the true key increased by dual cultivation with Sister Hangsha, plus the improvement in the efficiency of exercise brought by the traveling merchant position, Zhao Chen felt that he might be able to accumulate enough true key to open the Ren and Du meridians within a few months. Of course, dual cultivation with Yan Hangsha could not last long. Not to mention, whether she would be willing to continue after waking up, the effect of dual cultivation would inevitably be worse each time. Because with the fusion of 5 immortal spiritual true key and Red Emperor's Yang Yuan sword key, while the former took the opportunity to grow stronger, the latter gradually became stained with some Teichu true meaning, and the desire for Zhao Chen's true key continued to decline. And Zhao Chen did not really learn any collection and replenishment secret method. When his true key could no longer arouse Yan Hangsha's desire for mana and true essence, he naturally did not benefit from it. Secondly, through dual cultivation, Zhao Chen has actually memorized the practice route of Red Emperor Yang Yuan sword key. Although he lacks the corresponding mental method and visualization diagram, this may be obtained from other channels, or there is hope that Sister Hangsha can bypass the oath and prohibition and tell him in person. There is no need to spend a lot of money to buy the complete version of Red Emperor Yang Yuan sword art. After all, it is not a necessity. In fact, I want the original of the 5 emperors paying homage to the true god that the Li family got from Dunhuang. Unfortunately, the Li family will definitely not show it to others easily. We have to wait until Sister Hangsha wakes up before we can discuss this matter in detail. In the end, Zhao Chen suppressed his shopping impulse and withdrew from the Great Sun Star Raft. Then he grabbed Yan Hangsha's wrist again and continued to collect the interest to make up for his injured heart. One cycle after another, until the sky was dawn, Zhao Chen ended his exercise and stood up. As I expected, the increase in true energy is indeed less each time, but the efficiency has improved compared to the first dual cultivation yesterday. Is this because the transaction between Yan Hongxia and I has a resonance with the traveling merchant position to some extent, which is in line with the symbol of the name of the position? It seems that the slight increase in the efficiency of the true energy circulation after my transaction with senior brother Chen that day was not an illusion. Traveling merchant, trading while traveling. If I continue to do similar things, will it resonate with the talisman position again and bring me an improvement? While Zhao Chen was thinking, he entered the big sun star chariot and found that after a night of hard work, Yan Hongxia's soul barrier had been reduced to 78%. Of course, this was not because Zhao Chen's still quite weak 5 immortal spiritual key had such a big effect, but after Yan Hongxia's magic power obtained some of the Teichu true meaning, the quality was greatly improved, which could more quickly eliminate the external force that isolated the soul. Unfortunately, this improvement is almost at its limit. Preliminary estimates show that it will take at least 5 or 6 days for Sister Hongxia to wake up. And the same goes for the improvement I've gotten through dual cultivation. It will only last for a few more cycles before it's gone. However, any cultivator in the Li family who practices any of the 5 Emperor's sword arts, in theory, mine well. According to what is said in some novels about cultivating immortals, they're all my furnaces and can be used for me to collect energy. Oh, it turns out that I'm using the old devil's apostrophe script. But this is only in theory. After all, the Li family doesn't have another soul lost sister Hongxia to dual cultivate with me, and my true energy is of great benefit to them. Once discovered, I'd be the one being collected, right? Just as Zhao Chen was daydreaming, Huang Xianjun knocked on the door and walked in. His face was heavy, as if he was considering how to speak, so that his apprentice could come out of his grief. However, Huang Xianjun, who had a good tone, was stunned as soon as he looked at Zhao Chen, because the other party was full of energy and energetic, and there was no sign of loss or sadness. He looked at the bed again, and found that Yan Hongxia also had rosy cheeks and a very good complexion, and she was completely different from the pale look of last night. What's going on? Did the soul of Hongxia come back? If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 49 Tang Dynasty. To be honest, after judging that Yan Hongxia might have lost her soul due to the weirdness she encountered while traveling at night, Huang Guanzu had given up hope that she could return safely. After all, only one person with supernatural powers could escape from the weird domain by himself. Instead of hoping that Yan Hongxia could find a way out, it would be more reliable to pray that a master of supernatural powers would pass by. He didn't say all these words last night, also to take care of his apprentice's feelings. After this night, I think the silly apprentice has accepted the reality, so Huang Guanzu came to discuss the aftermath with him. Yan Hongxia is a 7th ranked Taoist official and a member of the Li family. She lost her soul inexplicably. If she can't get rid of the relationship, she will be in big trouble. But who would have thought that, just as Huang Guanzu had brewed his feelings, he found that the miracle really happened, and Yan Hongxia's soul actually came back intact. Fortunately, I didn't say anything final last night. Pavilion Master Huang let go of the hand that was checking Yan Hongxia's pulse, and while feeling relieved, he said carefully, Hongxia girl is fine, but her soul seems to have been infected by a very high level power, which has created a barrier between her and her body, so she hasn't woken up yet. Although Pavilion Master Huang's magic power was abolished, his soul had already undergone a transformation, so he could discover things that Zhao Chen could not currently perceive. He glanced at his disciple, smiled and comforted him, but you don't have to worry too much. This girl is blessed by heaven. She can even get out of such a dangerous place as the strange domain. Some rootless and sourceless pollution will be cleaned up by her own magic power sooner or later. According to my estimation, she will be able to wake up on her own within a week. If we seek help from other powerful people or even masters of magical powers, after arriving at human, it may be faster. At this point, he paused, then changed the subject and said meaningfully, but I don't recommend you do that. Hearing this, Zhao Chen's heart moved, and he had some guesses, but on the surface he still asked doubtfully why. Huang Xianjun stroked his beard and said solemnly, since the girl Hangsha risked her life to travel at night, it is very likely that she has discovered some shocking secrets or encountered a danger that even she, a magical cultivator, cannot solve. No matter which one it is, it shows that she is now deeply trapped in the vortex. Rashly exposing her whereabouts is not only irresponsible to her, but also will bring us great danger. Why not wait until she wakes up and let her decide for herself where to seek help? Before that, don't let anyone else know that she is hiding with you. Fortunately, you acted cautiously last night when you moved her back to your cabin. Even I didn't notice. At the end, Huang Xianjun looked at his apprentice with a smile, obviously guessing that he might have a magic weapon with invisibility ability, but did not point it out. After all, the apprentice seems to have a good relationship with Yan Hangsha, and who knows how many good things that girl has given him. Zhao Chen knew what the master meant in his eyes, but he had no intention of explaining. He let the master fill in the blanks and said thoughtfully, you mean, the Li family or the Taoist office may not be trustworthy? In fact, he did not want to hand over Yan Hangsha so quickly, not because he was reluctant to give up the benefits of dual cultivation, but Yan Hangsha's magic power had undergone a transformation under the nourishment of his 5 immortal spiritual ki. If a Li family cultivator investigated at this time, they would definitely be discovered. By then, he would be exposed. Although he had the idea of dual cultivation with the Li family cultivators, he did not want to be a public magic power quality enhancer. No, I didn't say that. Huang Xianjun waved his hands quickly. What I meant was, we don't know how popular Hangsha is with the Li family or the Taoist office. What if she meets someone who has a grudge against her and gets involved? Wouldn't she be harmed? And in that case, we might be in trouble too. If we want to investigate it first, it will probably take several days, and Hangsha will wake up by herself. Master Huang's analysis was very logical, but it all came down to one sentence. He was afraid of trouble. After all, if they just sent an unconscious Taoist official back like this, both the Li family and the Taoist office would force them to stay and question them. And God knows why Yan Hangsha escaped in the middle of the night. If the people behind the scenes think that they also know something and come to silence them, how unfair would that be? Anyway, Yan Hangsha won't be able to sleep for long, so why not wait until she wakes up? Master Huang's idea coincided with Zhao Chen's. He had more secrets, so he naturally didn't want to cause trouble, so he agreed, after pretending to think about it. After daybreak, as the crew members and martial arts disciples who had disembarked last night to have fun came back one after another, the Bingquan also weighed anchor and set sail with the sound of the whistle, heading towards Human County. About half an hour later, a black evil wind blew through the air. It first flew a few circles in the clouds above Jinjia County, and then landed in the west district of the county, revealing a tall man in a black robe. Due to the strong sunlight in the human area, many people wrap themselves tightly in robes, so this outfit does not look conspicuous. This tall man is naturally the so-called Tiger of the Four Evil Hall. He rode the black wind to track here just after dawn. The aura completely disappeared here. Yan Hangsha really encountered weird, right? After all, I left Weird's favorite aura on her. She may encounter weird even in the daytime, let alone when traveling at night. But to be on the safe side, we still have to send a message to Bear and Crocodile who are doing business in the county town and ask them to send people to keep a close eye on the Daoguan office and the Li family residence in the next few days. Also, let them report how many of the relics that Fang Zuzi sold have been recovered. After making up his mind, Tiger once again set up the black evil wind and flew into the sky without any disguise. Anyway, it couldn't hide it from those who were interested when it was exploring in the air just now. After all, his black wind was too conspicuous in broad daylight. In the county, the knowledgeable cultivators and warriors saw this scene and couldn't help muttering, the groundbreaking black wind is across the desert and the vast sea is pouring down the mad sand. It is the Lord of the Black Wind Fort, Mad Sand Zibodu, who is ranked 10th on the human outstanding list. On the deck of the ice spring, Zhao Chen's sword light wandered, shuttling between a dozen strong men. At first, he was quite comfortable, and he often retreated after hitting the target. But when the dozen people formed a formation and compressed his space for movement, it was difficult for him to move his hands and feet. He was even captured and hugged by accident and lost his combat effectiveness. I lost. After Zhao Chen put away his sword, he clasped his fists to Uncle Zhen, who was commanding the dozen or so strong men. They were obviously accompanying Zhao Chen in actual combat training. No, if it was a real life and death battle, you would have killed a few people and broken out of the siege. Before we surrounded you, we should have lost. Zhao Zhen shook his head and said seriously. Zhao Chen smiled and said, if it was a life and death battle, I would have been shot into a sieve by several rounds of volleys. These people are well trained and have good coordination. Even when my spiritual sense was reflected on my body for 10 feet, I didn't find a chance to defeat them one by one. It was obvious that they had practiced some kind of formation against true key warriors. Practicing with them, my body movement and swordsmanship improved rapidly. I just don't know if it will have an impact on these people if I fully display the magical power of the 5 immortal spiritual true key. Maybe it will be possible for the first time. While Zhao Chen was thinking, Master Huang, who had been giving him casual advice, came over, looked him up and down for a long time, and then said, judging from your response just now, your soul power is probably not low. Your spiritual sense can be reflected outside your body, right? Master, you have a keen eye. Zhao Chen nodded and did not hide it. The main reason was that he couldn't hide it, so he said directly, my disciple opened up the 12 meridians when he achieved true key. I guess so. Master Huang blinked at him, smiled teasingly, and said, what kind of foundation building spiritual object did Hangsha give you? Could it be that she practiced dual cultivation with you and passed her own true essence to you? In a sense, you seem to have guessed right. Although he thought so, Zhao Chen still showed a helpless expression on the surface and said, Master, stop joking. Okay, I won't say it. Anyway, I don't want to care about the affairs of you young people. It's just that as a teacher with experience, I still advise you to be frank. After all, what does the saying go? Don't wait until there are no flowers to break the branches. While Master Huang was joking, he didn't know what he recalled, and there was a little regret on his face. But at this time, Zhao Chen no longer paid attention to the possible story of the master. All his attention was attracted by the sentence, don't wait until there are no flowers to break the branches. This is a poem from the world of his previous life. How could it be circulated here? In addition, the master came from the Yuan sect, and the characters in this world are very similar to the Chinese characters in his previous life. Zhao Chen originally had many speculations about this, and now he is even more suspicious, so he tentatively asked, Master, do you know the Tang dynasty? Of course I know, wasn't the Tang poem I just read? Master Huang glanced at him and reminded, Datong is the name of the ancient dynasty, but about the Datong, it's okay to know a little about the things before Tang Xuanzang, but don't delve into the things after that. Of course, you probably won't be able to get in touch with it either. Tang Xuanzang, Li Kungsu. As a graduate student in archaeology, this name immediately flashed through Zhao Chen's mind, and he couldn't help but ask curiously, Master, it's just history, why can't I get in touch with it? The history books of our world, from Spring and Autumn Annals, records of the Grand Historian, Book of Han to the last old Book of Tang, are placed in libraries everywhere, and can be borrowed at will. My Yuan sect ancestor was inspired by the merits of King Yu recorded in records of the Grand Historian, and created the Yuan Dharmakaya. But the history after Xuanzang, which is I don't know, whether it is 10,000 or 20 or 30,000 years, there are only 3 paragraphs, and the rest is completely unknown. Which 3 paragraphs? Zhao Chen asked curiously. In the second year of Tangwang, the heavens changed, and demons first appeared in the world, causing great suffering to all living beings. Taichu Daojin Kunlun preached, and the world began to see the method of cultivation. Xuanzang and his brothers cultivated supernatural powers, suppressed demons, cleared the universe, and continued the Tang dynasty. In the last years of the ancient times, the Andong protectorate of the Tang dynasty disappeared, and demons occupied the vast ocean. The 9 veins of Kunlun disappeared along with hundreds of countries in the western regions, turning into endless deserts, and the world was in chaos. Chapter 50, Mist. It turns out that the historical trend of this world before the 5 dynasties was basically the same as the world I lived in my previous life. No wonder the writing is the same, the illusions are the same, and even some place names seem familiar. If it weren't for the astonishing land area of Daksha, Ganzhou alone is the size of 4 or 5 provinces in my previous life, and some terrain didn't match up, I might have thought I was still on Earth. But how can the humanities and history be so similar? Parallel universes? The radiation of Chinese civilization in many worlds? Sitting on the edge of the bed in his cabin, due to lack of information, Zhao Chen quickly gave up thinking about why the history of different worlds is so similar, and turned to guess the information revealed by those 3 paragraphs. First, this world originally had no magical powers. According to Master, before the Jiaoshan heaven change, the strongest warrior was only at the level of opening the 9 apertures, and could use minor magic with the help of some items. So when the demons and evil spirits first appeared in the world, humans were simply unable to fight against them. If most of the demons and evil spirits at that time were only at the level of magical powers at most, and had no wisdom, humans would probably have been destroyed before the Taoist master Taichu preached in Kunlun. At that time, Emperor Zhuangzong Li Kungsu and his father's other adopted sons were the first group of people to listen to the teachings in Kunlun Palace. Later, they all broke through to the level of divine powers. After 100 years, they finally put down the first rebellion of demons and rebuilt the Tang dynasty. Of course, the saying of 100 years might be what Master heard from the storyteller, and it is not credible. After all, Master clearly said that the only 3 paragraphs of history after Emperor Zhuangzong that exist in history books. Second, the Andong protectorate of the Tang dynasty and the Kunlun sect, one disappeared, and the other turned into an endless desert. Did this happen at the same time, or was one earlier and the other later? In addition, I remember Miss Key said that the Church of the Goddess of Light in the West was also destroyed in a similar time period as the Kunlun sect. It seems that something big happened at the end of the ancient times 10,000 years ago. Third, could the so-called historical fog that I experienced before be related to the lost history of the Tang dynasty from the second year of Emperor Zhuangzong's Tangguan reign to the end of the ancient times? After all, Wan Daozi comes from the now disappeared Andong protectorate. Alas, it's full of mysteries. If I were just an ordinary person, I might just think it was a story. But after seeing that evil picture of Bodhisattva, I'm afraid it has become closely connected with the so-called fog of history. However, this kind of life seems exciting and interesting, doesn't it? Thinking of this, Zhao Chen raised the corners of his mouth slightly, and decided that, as soon as he arrived in Yumen County City, he would go to the library mentioned by his master, to review the history of this world, to see if he could find more clues, so as not to be involved in the so-called historical fog again and know nothing. As a self-proclaimed adventurer, although Zhao Chen likes the exciting adventurous life, he is by no means a reckless man who acts rashly, and he will make sufficient preparations before every adventure. Bingquan Town, in the garrison, Zhao Song brought his wife Li to visit his father-in-law Li Hu, who was seriously injured in the attack last night, and according to the instructions of his latest favorite aunt, he left his wife by his side to fulfill his filial piety, and then said goodbye and left. But the Zhao family's carriage had just driven out of the mansion, and Zhao Song himself suddenly appeared in a secret room in the garrison, and the garrison Li Hu, who should have been seriously injured, had been waiting here. Old Hu is dead, you were seriously injured, and you were controlled. Even if your Li family investigates afterwards, no one will doubt you. After all, a master of the Gangsha realm died because of this, not to mention you, a garrison with only Lion Kyo. All the crimes were committed by the people of the Four Evils Hall. It's perfect. When Zhao Song saw the garrison Li Hu, he no longer had the respect he had before to his father-in-law, but became sarcastic. Aren't you the same? It's normal for an ordinary person to be deceived by evil people. Even if you sent your eldest son away a long time ago, now you find an opportunity to send your second son away. Li Hu was unmoved and said lightly, "Isn't it all because of you? If it weren't for you, I wouldn't have known that the secret treasure of my Zhao family's ancestors was in the Red Gold Mountain, and I wouldn't have been involved in these troubles." Zhao Song snorted coldly and then said, "Forget it, there's no point in talking about this now. Yan Hongxia risked her life to escape last night, and I'm afraid it won't be long before the Dao government office will send people to investigate. It's time to let Xi Yuling discover something strange and risk her life to pass on the message. In this way, we can completely get rid of suspicion afterwards. Don't worry, Uncle Z also has connections in the Dao government office, and now the chief officer of Human County happens to be away. Even if Yan Hongxia escapes, the information she passed on will take at least 10 days to reach that person." Li Hu said here, glanced at Zhao Song, and laughed. "I thought you liked Xi Yuling very much. This time she has to face the pursuit and interception of the Four Evil Hall. Even if we leave her a way out, it's still a life and death situation. You really are willing to do it? If you are willing to do it, why should I be reluctant? Besides, if it weren't for you, never mind. Anyway, although Yuling is innocent, she has done something wrong. If she doesn't die this time, I will compensate her." Zhao Song said expressionlessly. "Hypocrisy." Li Hu sneered. Zhao Song ignored him and said to himself, "I just hope there won't be another accident like Yan Hongxia. According to the plan, she should have left Bingquan town long ago. I didn't expect her to be so seriously injured, so I have been hiding in Bingquan town to heal my wounds, and it just happened that she even deceived Mr. Hu." Li Hu sighed, then changed the subject and continued, "Okay, let's talk about business. This time I called you here because of the key. Are you sure now?" Zhao Song's face was complicated, and he nodded silently after a long time. "It's confirmed. Then let's start the next plan." In the evening, when the steam liner Ice Spring slowly sailed into the dock of Human County, Zhao Chen, who was sitting on the bed in the cabin, also withdrew his palm from Yan Hongxia's body. He completed another cycle of double cultivation. However, after retracting his hand, he lowered his head and pondered for a moment, and then the extremely charming and awe-inspiring aura on his body disappeared, replaced by a domineering and fiery meaning, but soon returned to its original state. He actually let his own 5 immortal spiritual ki temporarily imitate the characteristics of Red Emperor Yang Yuan ki. It is about 70% similar, and it can't last too long. But in the absence of mental methods and visualization diagrams, this is the only way for the time being. If you want to go further, relying on the current level of double cultivation will not be effective. More in-depth communication is required. Forget it. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.